Hello, Guardians. Welcome to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast here on Boss Rush Games. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deerigan. Alongside me, as always, is our lore archivist, Mr. Josh Finney. And I hope that your eardrums are not broken.
Wow. How do you top that?
I don't know. Let's find out. Joining us is the nerd generalist. Which corner are you in? I don't know. I think you're in this one.
I don't know. I'm right here. For me, I'm always just right here, guys. Straight ahead. What's up, everybody?
Space, man.
How we doing tonight?
You didn't. I thought you were going to try to top Josh.
You can't top Josh.
That's fair.
You can't. You can't beat DeeJ.
You can't do it.
That's fair. We have a full house tonight because we also have Colonel Panic.
Ooga! How's that?
I kind of did
Like
it.
Shock jock sound effect poured out of my mouth.
I am thoroughly impressed and confused. Both.
I'm scared for where this is gonna go. Just based on the intros, I'm scared.
It's already off the rails, gentlemen.
It's only downhill from here, listeners. It's only downhill.
Every time I open a Skype call with anybody in the last year and a half, I'm scared. So, let's be honest.
You picked the wrong. You picked the wrong job. Then
I did. You know, who made me do this? It's Ed's fault. We're blaming Ed. Even though he doesn't play Destiny at all, it's still his fault. How's everybody? Everybody good? Everybody hanging in there?
It's almost Friday. I'll be all right.
It is almost Friday. I also get paid tomorrow, so that's good.
I'm good. I'm going on a little mini road trip in the morning to go visit our good friend Ray Apollo. So.
Yes. Yeah, I sold a bunch of crap this week. That's how my week's going. Like a lot of crap, like almost $1,000 worth of crap this week.
You gonna get a monitor?
What?
You gonna get a monitor?
I am. I'm gonna get that the Samsung one you sent me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
tell us your most profitable sale. What was the item you sold that made you the most money this week?
Well, I sold my PlayStation 4 this week.
Oh, boring. I was hoping it was like some old toy or old video gaming nostalgia.
No, that was like a month ago, man. You've missed out on these conversations.
Oh yeah, it was pretty great.
Yeah, I sold a Master System and a Saturn.
Yeah, we talked about the Saturn last time I was on.
Yeah. So what else?
You sold a really obscure Dreamcast game for like $100-something, didn't you?
Yeah, I sold Illbleed, the really obscure Dreamcast game, for $145.
Jesus, did you burn a copy first?
No.
Illbleed. That sounds like a rap group.
I don't know if you're aware, but you can just burn Dreamcast games onto a disc and just play them.
Yeah, I know.
Are they just like CDs, DVDs?
Just CDs.
Yeah.
Just
well,
CDs.
they're GDs, which is like
Goddams.
Goddamn, we should have picked a different format.
Sega's fancy compact disc that clearly they just were like, oh well, we make money on software, but everybody's just burning our games. So we only sold like 3 copies of Sonic Adventure, but everybody's playing it. So whatever, you know. Oh man, Dreamcast, great times. Have one sitting right here in my dresser thing. So.
One would say you're living the dream.
Cast.
Got him. We
Tower
should probably talk about Destiny at some point.
Tower
Tamagotchi
Casuals
game.
is my Dreamcast. Am I right? What else did I sell? I sold a fat PS2 with a bunch of games for like $85 today too. So
That's not bad for a PlayStation 2.
I know. I don't even know if it works. I told the guy after he bought it, I'm like, look, dude, this thing's been sitting in my basement for 15 years. I have no clue if it works.
He turns it on. It's a disc read error.
What is your you have a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Pro that you sold?
Pro.
How much, if you don't mind, how much did you get for it?
I sold it for $140 plus $40 shipping.
Gotcha.
So.
And to you IRS people, that is fake money. That's not real money.
No, it's Monopoly money. Actually, I asked them to pay me in Canadian dollars because that's even more fake than Monopoly money. So.
Ooh, you just lost half your Canadian viewer or listening base now.
That's
I
fine.
like how
Who is
I like
it?
how
Who
we
is
get
it? Who is it?
concerned
Sean
about-
Capri and Mark Carabin. Those two guys. Scrubs. I'm just kidding. I like those
We
guys.
get concerned about selling too much on eBay and be like, I hope the IRS doesn't end up finding out and taxing me. Meanwhile, other people sell like millions and millions of dollars worth of stuff and don't pay a penny.
Well,
they're like they go into like, don't worry about it. I don't have to pay any taxes.
Spoilers. I'm using my sister-in-law's account, so
Oh,
it's
nice.
her problem. No, it's
Call that the Sneaky Pete.
the Sneaky Pete. Jeez, that sounds like some word for something real different.
They don't call it that. They should not call it that.
That's what my uncle used to tell me.
Oh God, I'm real scared where this conversation. Oh, I sold a game.
Yep.
I sold.
Nope. Abort.
I sold.
Smack the mute button.
I sold Paper Mario for N64 complete inbox for $160.
Oh, that's the prize there. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Man, so let me tell you that we should get into Destiny, but Paper Mario was the first RPG that I ever didn't know was an RPG and then secretly made me like RPGs.
That's how Nintendo gets you. That's how Pokemon was for me. So I had no clue what an RPG was until I played Pokemon.
Wasn't that supposed to be like a spiritual successor to Super Mario RPG?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. It's real close.
Which is a fantastic game.
It's a fantastic game.
Well, welcome to...
Thousand Year Door is one of my all-time favorite Nintendo games.
Oh, well, do I have bad news for you, Josh? I just sold Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door for $100 complete inbox.
Man.
It's okay. I sold mine for $70 a couple years back, so it's all good.
Yeah.
That's okay. I lost mine in my basement somewhere, and some person I'm sure found
To
it.
be fair, someday Nintendo will find a way to resell us all of these games again. And again.
This is the way.
And again.
This is the way.
This is the way. All right, well, I guess we should probably talk about Destiny.
Instead of talking about Corey's eBay skills...
I mean, look, I've made almost $3,000 in 30 days. What did you do?
This has been
$3,000 on shaders.
Got all bright dust.
Spend it on a lot of beers that are probably going to cause me to buy an excess of Tums this weekend.
Oh, well, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't buy beer that's made with buffalo sauce. Okay.
So Corey, your mic cut out a little bit, and it sounded like you said butthole sauce.
Well, could be that too. You shouldn't drink beer made with butthole sauce either.
You got real obscure.
Here we go. All right, I will calm down.
To be fair, we had fried rice last night, and I had some real weird butthole sauce come out before the show started. So
Yikes!
We should start this show over. Can we start over?
Nope. Too late.
This is it.
Too late.
This is what the people wanted.
This is people asked. People like Nerd and a Colonel, and now we have them together, and this is what happened.
This is your mistake, having us both on.
I already muted him. It's all good, guys. It's all good.
Take us into some Destiny, Josh. Take us into some Destiny.
Guess what? You can only mute me through the Skype call. I can keep talking and actually mute all of you at once on the podcast and keep going. So
This is how I'm going to find out that our entire podcast is really just Corey recording over our voices with sandwich talk.
Wait, yeah, Corey, can you just do my voiceover for the rest of the podcast?
I could. I'm not going to, though. Josh, get us into some Destiny, please.
All right, so a little bit light on the Destiny news this week, which is a little weird. 3 weeks out from an expansion, major expansion, 25 days to be exact. But we did finally get the deets on the next generation of Destiny, on how it's going to run on the Xbox Series X, Series S, and the PlayStation 5. Native 4K for both Series X and PS5, 1080p on the S, 60 FPS across the board, faster load times, cross-gen play within your console family, the free next-gen upgrade, and, of course, the biggest piece of news here that I think we are all excited for, a field of view slider coming to consoles. Finally.
Yes.
Thank God.
Thank
God.
What does that mean exactly? Because, I feel like that's something I should really know, but it's one of those things that just eludes my knowledge of technology in games.
Corey, have you ever used a DSLR camera?
No.
I'm out. Next.
So the best way I can't really describe it to you, but it's like on PC the best way I can probably describe it to you is, do you remember when DVDs used to be widescreen and full screen?
Yes.
They sold two different versions of them. Okay, so full screen, you got the full image, but it was cropped. You were missing stuff on the ends.
Right.
Widescreen, you got the entire aspect ratio as it was shown in theaters.
Okay.
That's kind of how this is the full you can go up to the full field of view that the developers made it in and intended it for. But on consoles, that's like shrunken down. It's like going from widescreen to like 4:3 almost.
Okay.
So where
like
it's going to factor in, so imagine you're in a Crucible match.
Yes.
Okay.
You're going to see the guy over here that's killing you rather than just taking the shot and dying.
Well,
He's
theoretically,
still gonna kill you.
Let's be honest.
he's still gonna kill you,
I'm
but
probably
you'll
not going to see him because I have a problem in
Yeah.
competitive anything. So but
So they say here their goal is to enable an FOV range similar to that of PC, and they are currently testing the settings to ensure smooth performance across each platform, and we'll have more details closer to launch.
Okay.
This is launching December 8th. This is not coming with the launch of Series X like we thought on the 10th of November. Instead, this will be in December. I'm kind of thinking that since they say they're still working on the field of view, this is probably why this is coming in December, is because they want to make sure that absolutely works before putting this out. Because if it doesn't, that's going to be disastrous PR for Bungie.
I mean, it potentially could impact performance substantially. I mean, you're putting a lot more poly.
Oh, no, it's absolutely going to impact the performance, yeah. And they make it pretty clear, like, they can only do this on the next generation consoles and on PC. That's the only things with the process.
Even if we got half of the variability that PC gets, I would be happy as a primarily console player.
This is absolutely, for me, the field of view slider is the best confirmation we're going to get that crossplay between the consoles and PC is not that far off. We know they're already planning for 2021, but this may come earlier in 2021 than Witch Queen at this point.
So when the new consoles launch, does that mean we're not getting 60 frames a second at launch either?
We are not. That'll be in the December 8th update.
Oh man.
Doesn't that take the wind out of your sails a little bit?
Yeah.
It definitely takes the wind out of my sails a bit, and so that it's going to be 30 frames. But you are still getting that fast load time, and you are still getting the ability to pull up your menu in real time, like PC, because they've already shown the version that is currently on the preview units is not the smart delivery version. It is what we currently play on Xbox One and on PS4.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was watching some trial footage or some footage from people who had gotten demo units of the Series X, and there were a couple of people who put up videos of Destiny running on the Series X, and there is, even without any of the enhancements, a pretty substantial graphic it's really hard to explain, but it almost feels like you're running at a higher frame rate on there because everything is loading so much faster. So, correct, we won't have the 60 frames per second right out of the gate, but there will be a much better feel to the game just with the better hardware as it is.
So,
go ahead.
My biggest concern with it, and I know that to a certain degree I will, but am I really going to be playing Destiny in December 8th? Like the whole excitement was there's new content and I get the enhancements. And now that it's coming so much later, what content? And again, I would be so happy to be wrong, but Bungie does not have a great track record as of recent as far as keeping me engaged, I would say a month past a content drop.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate for just a second. I'm going to play the role of Bungie Defender because I completely agree with you there. If this is a Forsaken style sized expansion, which I think a lot of us are expecting it is, with 2 complete destinations as opposed to just getting the moon reskinned, with the new Light quest line, with the raid dropping, which we're going to get to in a minute, Reprise strikes from the Cosmodrome, Reprise content from there, and all the new stuff on Europa. I think that this drop is lined up to be with the start of the Dawning event. So you'll have a seasonal event to go into. You've still got the seasonal content in addition to the Dawning, so you'll still have season 15, I think it is, drop. Or not 15, God, I'm getting way ahead of myself, season 12. You'll still have that drop. I think there's gonna be enough to keep most people there, especially if you're not hitting it hard and power grinding. Like, I'm gonna grind out a lot probably in the first 10 days and then take a 2-3 week break to play Cyberpunk. I'll be ready for some more Destinying by December 8th. So the only thing I'll be coming back for in that time frame is I am going to attempt the Deep Stone Crypt probably in its first week.
I was going to make the same point. I think the fact that this releases with a bunch of other games that I think a lot of Destiny players are going to be playing. Cyberpunk. We were talking
Black Ops literally 2 days later.
That's what I was going to say. Before the call, we were talking, or before the podcast started, we were talking about Black Ops. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things I think that are going to be tearing people in different directions. So I think for casual players, it's going to be really hard for us to really focus exclusively on Destiny for that first month. So I think you will be. I will be.
Like I'll probably put about 2 solid weeks in, and then it'll go into a rotation with Cyberpunk until when the 60 FPS drops. Though, like I'm done with Cyberpunk by that point because it's all Destiny, baby. It's all Destiny at that point.
I don't think you're going to be done with Cyberpunk at that point. That's a guess.
I could be hopeful.
Yeah, I mean,
You can be hopeful.
I mean, for me, like I was hoping for at least the 60 frames. Like the other graphical stuff, whatever. Like I was hoping for at least the 60 frames. Plus, like there's other games I want to play too. Like Gears Tactics is another game that people seem to be giving me shit for, being excited for to play it on console. But and like Assassin's Creed, or like, I mean, you guys are excited for Cyberpunk also. Like I don't know. I was kind of like bummed when I read that today. I was really bummed.
I had to read. I read through it, and for some reason, I skipped over like the whole like the upgrades will be delivered on December 8th part, and I was just like, oh great! And I saw the chart and like, yeah, that's stuff we know. And then I saw the field of view thing, and I was like, oh nice. And then like it was like not I think like the second time to like read everything. I'm like, wait. I was like, you snuck that in there. I was like, I didn't.
Yeah.
It did not feel like that was announced so much as like quietly mentioned, which is fine. I get it.
I don't think I would be as bothered by this if it wasn't clearly being marketed as Xbox's big push for launch day.
Yeah.
That I think that does take the wind out of the sails a bit. But like Nerd said, watching some of those previews and seeing how fast it loads, and it like obviously it's still lagging behind PC. We won't get the PC parity until December. I'm still like, okay, you know what? I can work with this. I can deal with 30 frames. I want to attempt the raid when it comes out, but I might actually hold off for 60 frames and that field of view, honestly.
I think we need to get a group together to try raid day 1. And everyone needs to...
You're not going to wait.
You have 11 days to get up there, and that's more generous than any other raid that they've done.
Remember when the Taken King came out? We had like 3 days.
Yeah, I remember... Yeah. I did it on like day 5, and it was awful.
I took 3 days off of work to do it because we were gonna do it for the Destiny show I was running at that time and talk about it. And I was just like, oh man, this sucks.
So I need people to do it day 1 with me, and I will make sure that I'll send
day 1. Yeah,
you will.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I will. I signed myself up too. Is
right.
day 1 on a Friday?
It's on a Saturday.
Ooh, even better.
Yeah,
Saturday, an hour after reset.
I just have to make sure I send everyone away on a nice little day trip and.
Yeah, So since we're talking raid, let's
hold on. Before we go into raid,
get your last thoughts out.
Before we go to raid, there's one thing I wanted to bring up. Max resolution for the Xbox Series S is 1440. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why are we only getting a 1080p resolution for the Series S?
The best way that I can describe that is seeing how other developers have talked about it is they're choosing to lock it at 1080 to make sure that they have the most stable frame rate and resolution combo.
That's a Bungie thing.
Yeah, that's completely a Bungie decision. That's not a Microsoft thing. That's them saying we're locking it to this. It's the same reason why we can look at Series X and be like, well, you can go up to 120 frames on this. Why are we not doing 120 frames? Why is it locked at 60? And it's for the stability.
Do you remember when Halo 3 came out and it was like 1080, but it was actually running at like 778 or something like that?
Yeah,
I can understand. I mean, I can understand why we're locking it at 60. But for me, I mean, this is one of I would assume, with its addition to Game Pass, I mean, going to be one of Microsoft's flagship products for the new console. Why they wouldn't want to flex the fact that it can go up to 1440, but with what you're saying, I understand, but I don't know. It just doesn't.
I
make
also
sense.
think this is something that, not to cut you off, I think this is something that could possibly be addressed later on too.
Sure.
We get more performance patches throughout the year. They're always working on the back end. There's been a lot of speculation we're getting that new engine. I mean, that could very well be delivered in the update that gives us crossplay. It'd be like, hey, the wizards at Bungie and Microsoft have teamed up to figure out how to do this.
Didn't they disprove that though? Didn't they say that they're not doing a new engine?
They
said
a lot
that
of
they
things.
weren't.
They say a lot of things. I conspiracy headphones are on, gentlemen.
Spinfoil.
We are getting a new
jeez.
engine at some point. This engine is so outdated. They need a new one really
Why?
badly if they plan on this game going on.
Why? What do you need? What do you need?
One
it for?
specific thing that would be better about the engine.
Exactly.
Dude, honestly, like the menu system, the menu
Not
and
engine
inventory, and the
related.
vault all needs to be overhauled completely.
But I
They've
don't
said
think
there's
that's.
so
I don't
much-
think that's.
They've said there's
engine-specific,
so
though.
much spaghetti code in there, it's getting hard for them to update the engine at this point to do back-end work. Like they're trying to update it to where they don't have to send things through a patch approval process nearly as much with Microsoft and Sony. That's what holds up like when there's a game-breaking bug and they're like, well, we got to disable such and such for like 3 weeks because we got to identify the problem, make the patch, and then get it approved and hope it doesn't break anything else. They're hoping to get to a point where they can do things like, for example, with the ciphers, the Festival of the Lost ciphers, they updated that on the back end. That's not something that had to go through a hot
No. That's okay. 100%. That's a quality assurance and play testing issue. And I would call out that a lot of the issues that Bungie's had over the last year, if not longer, has been a quality assurance and play testing issue. Yeah, sure. You can work around Microsoft and Sony's, I'm sure they have a review time very similar to maybe like what Apple has before they put out any kind of content updates or patches. But these are problems that you don't. I'm going to say this, and I know it's going to sound kind of tacky because software development is not easy. I'm not saying it is, but these are problems that you don't necessarily have to have. I don't think it's related to the engine.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think we will get a new engine when Bungie makes a new engine for a different game, and then if Destiny's still going strong, they decide to like port it over.
I think I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely arguing with that. I guess I'm looking at like long term, the future. Had we not had 3 more years of expansions confirmed, I'd be like, yeah, like whatever. But this is running on, to my knowledge, it's running on a modified version of the engine they built for Reach, and that Reach came out 10 years ago. At a certain
It's an amazing
point,
game.
no, absolutely, like at the time that was a groundbreaking looking game. It's a beautiful game. Still to this day, Reach is beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I think I'm probably going to look at this in a little bit of a different light once we get to the performance boosts and the new resolutions on the next gen consoles. Like I'm playing on a 1080p TV on a Xbox One S, and there's dude, the frame rate slowdown is so bad at this point. I can't do it.
That's
Going
fair.
into a public event is a nightmare.
Yeah, that's bad.
Trying to do contact, even trying to do some raid encounters. Menagerie was a nightmare a few weeks ago when I tried doing that for Means to an End. It's just like it's skipping along. It's like, oh my god, like we look like we're in the Matrix right now. This is bad.
If I were to guess, we will get a new engine in Destiny as Destiny's swan song. Like they'll be like, "Hey, we're putting it out to pasture. This is the engine.
Yeah.
Good luck, guys. We're gonna keep the servers on until we see the players drop."
Yeah, I mean that's a conversation for another time. Is the longevity of Destiny? I think we definitely have some questions about that now, especially like Destiny 2 as we currently know it.
I hate the fact that there's still a 2 there.
That's what I was going to get to. Corey and I brought that up before. Like, just hurry up and drop the 2. I personally think that with the next gen consoles, they're going to say, screw it. Like, we're bringing in everything from Destiny. That's my personal.
I think you're holding back your player base by having that 2 there. I think the moment you drop that 2, the floodgates open and people are saying, all right, I'm going to make the investment. I'm going to jump into this universe and I'm going to stay with this because now I know it's going to be around for a long time.
I think like what Josh and I were saying, like once they get to a point where they can actually get all the content from Destiny 1 and 2 to be stable in the universe, they will drop the 2. And I think this content vaulting is them like rolling out the content slowly as they see that it can,
And they've said as much too, right?
Yeah.
Like the content vault it's not them taking it out for good, it's them taking it out to rework it and reintroduce it. Like the Cosmodrome is going to look differently than we remember it. Like they've directly addressed that. There's new characters and there's new missions to do. I personally would just like to see all the story content in addition to the strikes and raids come over. I think there's a lot of story that you need to bring in.
I think they need to streamline that story though, because that Destiny 1 vanilla campaign is pretty. It's pretty bad. I'm not. I guess I'm more getting at like I want them to bring the story over because I'm selfish and play through Taken King. I know, but what I was saying was like I think like there's a way that you can streamline those 25-ish missions between vanilla, House of Wolves, and Crota into
there's about 25
into like 8 to 10 missions of that story and just kind of
they did it at the start of Destiny 2 with those animated cutscenes that walked you through what happened in the previous game. I think actually it was in the beginning of Destiny 2. I think that was how they told some of the backstory. They can absolutely do that. As like opening cutscenes to some of the missions.
I would love to see a return to, like you just said, like when you start up Destiny 2 and you can still view it from the opening menu. If you played Destiny 1 and carried your character over, you can see your first completion of all those things and who you did it with. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool to go back and look at, and like every campaign and every raid I completed with my best friend. Like we played games since we were like 11 years old together. And we just see it every time we boot it up, we see it like bam, bam. It's us on all of them. I'd love to see a return to something, just like little QOL things I'd like to see come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like as long as the destinations are available to, like, if they bring back Mars, if they bring back, even like Phobos at a point, like you could do just the campaigns, even if you can't bring the strikes over, or you only roll out one raid at a time or whatever, you can still, as long as those destinations are there, you can roll that story back in. I don't really see why not, so.
I'm really nervous about them at any point bringing back Mercury, because then it means the Haunted Forest and all that stuff will come back, and I don't.
Mercury sucks. Can we just take a minute and talk about how?
Dude, I fully agree. Mercury is the worst. It's the worst destination.
Let's talk about.
But it could have been. It could have been cool. Like Mercury could have been like such a cool, like with the Infinite Forest, like. Going through like a strike or like even like a new type of event you could go through, and it'd be different every time, and like maybe you make it shorter, make it longer at some points, but like going through those strikes in those missions is just like a slog. It is such a slog. It sucks so bad.
It's bad.
It's
real bad.
Oh, it's just
Curse of Osiris is hands down the worst expansion that they've ever done.
Which sucks
Without
because Osiris is such an amazing character in the lore.
Character in the universe.
Yeah.
And then he has the shittiest expansion that he's barely in. So
I want his armor as like an exotic piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we talk about like recap Festival of the Lost?
Yeah, we'll make this real quick. So we can. Corey and I touched on it a bit at the end of last week's episode.
Oh, okay.
We didn't do too much because it was only 2 days in. Cypress hadn't been buffed yet. Let's talk about Festival of the Cost for a minute.
It sucks. It sucks so bad. I haven't run it in like 2 years.
Lost is it.
Oh.
That was noise. It is hands down. It's the coolest decorations to me. I love how the tower is dressed up every year. It is the shittiest event by far, though. Like, you cannot seriously tell me that running the Haunted Forest is fun.
This year,
you are not baking cookies. You're not competing for Olympic medals. You're not getting super supers like you did in the Revelry a few years ago. There's no Crimson Doubles. It is you running through a forest with shitty ass randos and having the worst time of your life. And it's made infinitely worse. Get it? Infinite? It's made infinitely worse this year by having to go get those goddamn ciphers.
Oh, it's so bad.
It is the absolute worst thing. They took an already bad event and somehow they found a way to make it worse.
So hold on.
Even after two, so I view it as I was already going to go do those things anyways. But I have a problem with the fact that the cipher drop rate, even after 2 buffs, is still so abysmal that I played for an hour and a half the other night. I had 4 ciphers drop in that hour and a half, and I played probably 4 or 5 Crucible matches. I did at least 15 patrols, and I did 3 heroic public events. That's so unbelievably horrendous. Why am I not going to get some ciphers from the chests I open up at the end, you know? Why are there no daily bounties for me to go do to get these if you're really going to force me to get yet another consumable? Why can I not buy things with my candy? These are all questions I would like an answer to.
What am I going to do with all this candy? Like,
candy,
I have so much
chocolate
candy.
Strange coins, ciphers. Stop it. We don't need this many currencies for one lackluster event.
I know. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, I'm like, okay, I have all this candy now, but apparently I can't open these blue bags because they suck, and you have to save them for the purple bags. And it's just like, Spooky Grandma sucks.
Whenever Horror Story came out, right, like the machine gun, like that dropped at max light, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It dropped at.
Yeah, it dropped. It dropped at both that and Braytech dropped at max light, fully masterworked.
But the best part about it at the time is it didn't have a level restriction.
Well, I mean, but all that aside, like there was a reason to finish. Be like, oh, because like, so first off, I love you, Bungie, but sometimes it does feel like I'm in an abusive relationship. Because I don't know how many times that you guys have heard me bitch about this, but I'm now in week like 5 or 6 of the same GD light level, which is 2 under the cap. Mm-hmm. Because when I do my pinnacle gear, it gives me stuff in the same slots.
Yep.
So I would love if there was something like that again, where it's just like, oh, and that'll slowly increase my grind or give me a chance to get that somewhere else.
Give me the menagerie back.
Not only this, but when you open up those chests at the end, I don't know how many events this is in a row where rewards drop at 750. They don't drop at the appropriate light level, and every event it's the same thing. Oh, we're looking into why this happened. This goes back to the whole play testing. Why don't you try this out and see for yourself, and maybe go, this keeps happening. What do we need to do on the back end to fix this?
So the problem. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, nerd.
The problem with this is we've got 2 tiers of the player base now. We have the free players, and we have the players who are invested at higher levels. Now, I think this will even out when we have more things like Game Pass, where people are getting all of the content and all of the new expansions when they release. But I think the reason why we got those 750 drops is because players were able to jump into this right out of New Light, and so they didn't want to make it so that they would get a bunch of power boosts for that. That's the way I saw it.
Right, and so I'm okay ultimately with not getting the fully masterworked gun, but I think dropping things to you that are appropriate to your light level, make it like chests and other activities where, okay, maybe the item that you get is a couple light above where you are now. For example, why could this not work like drops that I get in, like legendary drops from the Crucible or from Gambit or finishing my weekly pinnacles? Like, those drop to the appropriate level. Why do we keep having this problem in events? I'm cool with things dropping for new light players, but it should also be able to scale up to the people who play all the time.
So, a couple of things that I would have loved that they change about this. I would like something beyond the ship and the ghost and the sparrow. They're neat, but those are like, I would consider that like the freebie player content stuff, right?
Yeah.
I would have liked it if, depending on what level of the haunted forest you got to, determined how many chests at the end you got to open up. So, like, there's an incentive to do better. Whenever I was playing towards the end, and I think, Bruce, you and I were at the same spot, I was like, I just want to sit here and AFK this so I can get to the chest at the end.
Oh,
Because
I totally did that.
Because it takes more time. It's the longest 15 minutes of my life. Because it's actually like 30. And it stinks. So I want a better incentive. Even if that incentive, maybe it's not possible, but like there needs to be something either for the people that paid for the season or just something in general. Give me something beyond that. And there needs to be an incentive for me to do better. Like, I literally did patrols and then just ran through like 5 of those, like, or how many did I do? I don't know, 7 or 8, like, haunted forest runs. Like, I just need an incentive to care, because once I found out that I just buy the armor stuff with Bright Dust, it's just like, well, I guess I'll finish it so I can get finish out the triumph and everything.
Yeah.
But other than that, there was really no reason to play, and I wanted it over as fast as possible.
Don't get me wrong. I like that this is an event similar to Moments of Triumph and Solstice of Heroes, where you can actually get cosmetics from playing. It's just that the cosmetics here are so fucking bland because it's the generic ghost shell, it's the generic ship, and the generic sparrow, just with mummifyings on them, like
toilet paper
wraps. Yeah, toilet paper, basically. Like you're streaking through the air. I think it would have been cooler to have maybe, I don't know, like, and I'm nitpicking here because I say this about every event, but take something that was in Eververse and put that out there, and then take like the little mummy crap and throw that in Eververse. If you really want to buy that, you can buy it there. But let us earn at least something cool. Maybe introduce an armor set for one of these events. I was saying this to Corey, like, and Nerd, you might have been here for this too. Like, maybe after an armor set has been in Eververse, the next year when that event rolls around, you put that as random drops in the chests at the end of the Haunted Forest or something, or whatever. Insert next year's event. Give an incentive for those of us who didn't want to spend $15 every single seasonal event on armor, a chance to earn that then.
Or give
armor
me a shirt.
Yeah. This was my shirt from last
year.
year.
I was going to say, give me a shirt for finishing all 45 Cypher chest openings.
That's what. So this was the easiest shirt I've ever earned in Destiny. I played for 1 day and earned this last year. All you had to do was earn Braytech Werewolf, and you could get the shirt, which I think is really cool. It's my favorite Destiny shirt. It's super soft. I wear it all the time, but don't get me wrong. There are things I like about this year's event. I am actually running it as opposed to last year. Last year I did enough to earn the shirt, and that was it. I didn't play beyond that. This year I find myself going in because I can get random rolls on Horror Story and on Braytech. I like running 450 auto rifles, even though they're not the greatest in the world. Like, I enjoy getting new rolls on those, so that is incentivizing me, but the drop rate on those also is abysmal.
The shitty part about it is the curated roll is really good.
It is.
Which you get for getting if you just get one copy of Braytech Werewolf and Horror Story, you can pull the curated roll from collections, and the curated roll is probably one of the best.
No, it absolutely is. Like, there was those guns dominated for so long in content because they had great perks and they were fully masterworked and full light level when they dropped. Like, I've got Braytech Werewolf to drop with Vorpal now. I'm like, okay, cool. Vorpal on any kind of SMG or auto rifle, I'm going to take that right away. Any kind of burst fire gun, give it to me. Like, it's one of the best things you can ask for that extra damage boost, especially in Crucible. But they took a few steps back. They took a few steps forward. They're kind of left where they were, just with different problems now.
So,
and some of them are still the same.
What I will say in their defense, and I think that, I mean, this is what I'm gonna say is true. Like, I don't have any facts to back this up, but it has to be. Is that once they push the release date back, this is not the content we were supposed to get this year, because they're pulling this planet away, right? Like, Mercury wouldn't have been there, which is where the Haunted Forest is. So and that would have been gone September 22nd, which means that this is not the Festival of the Lost we would receive, which means that some poor intern was given the task of putting together of existing assets
Yeah.
a Festival of the Lost activity, and they're like, I don't know, do this, and they don't have the resources to make something else that wasn't already there other than rehash kind of the existing thing, which is why we probably didn't get a shirt, which is why we didn't get like some cool curated roll weapon or anything like that.
They came up with a Nokris shirt in like 2 weeks, so like I don't believe that. Give me a shirt.
I don't know if that probably wasn't in 2 weeks. That was in the existing timeline. It just came.
To be fair, I could come up with a shirt for us in like an hour. You know,
I came up with a shirt right now. I doodled it on my pet. No, but I don't know. I kind of get why it happens. I almost wish that there was more of like a narrative along with it. And I don't mean that with story driven. I wish they would have said like in the TWAB or something. Like instead of being like, "Hey, Festival of the Lost guys, blah blah blah," it would just be like, "Hey, here's Festival of the Lost. Don't get your hopes up because like this was not supposed to be the one that came out." Like I just temper my expectation a little bit.
I think that's a kind of a catch-22 also. For like those of us who want that, we understand the development timeline, but the majority of the player base is going to be like, well, you know, you delayed Beyond Light. You should have made Festival of the Lost better and more incentivized this year and this and that. And I feel like the couple of rewards you can get from Spooky Grandma were kind of an afterthought that were just tossed in as like, oh shit, we got to give them something to grind for. We got to give these hardcore players something so they don't rip our heads off.
And you know what? I did it. I still did it.
I did it.
That's the sad part.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we're sitting here complaining about this, and I know full well I'm probably going to finish this up in the next 2.5 weeks.
I spent $30 on the shaders on the ornaments for this year and last year, and I grinded every single one of those cipher.
To be fair, the Warlock set this year is pretty fucking dope.
They're all good.
They're all good.
Those probably were also part of the original thing.
I would hope so, but knowing their track record with how they treat the Christmas and Halloween and spring events, I'm not inclined to agree with that, especially now that they've taken out the actual seasonal sets from Eververse. I think that the ones for the holiday events are going to stay in there. They got to get that money somehow. So you just look around, whoever has it on day one, you know they spent $15 on it, and you point and laugh.
I've got no shame.
Then we all wait until like the last day so nobody notices that we bought it.
I've got no shame. I'll spend it day one.
It's just like the actual Halloween. You could buy it in Target 2 weeks ago at full price, or you could wait until the day before Halloween and get it for 25 cents. It's the same. It's just like real life.
So okay, before we move on, any more final thoughts on Festival of the Cost?
Boo!
It's Eva Levante. She's Italian. How's that work?
You know, I don't know. I'll see if I can find it in the lore for us.
I have my great grandmother was Italian. She came over on a boat, which I can't imagine. Same person. I swear they reincarnated her into the game.
Oh,
ooh.
Apparently you can get enhancement prisms from those epic mystery grab bags.
I guess I know.
I've gotten our Umbral Ingrams.
I just got one from one. I just opened it.
God, I hate you.
I'm gonna blow through all of my stuff.
Sorry.
Bite me out. I'm done. I'm done with Festival of the Lost.
Yeah, I'm done as well.
Yeah, I played it for like one night, I think, and I was like, yeah, this sucks. This sucks.
I get it.
Like I'm not invested enough to like do the event. I want to go do like I have like maybe 2 or 3 nights a week to game. I'm not going to go do an event that is shitty. You know, I'm going to go try to finish the rest of my weekly stuff for Pinnacle stuff because my light level is probably significantly lower than everybody else's. I'm at 1055, I think, and it's like I gotta
with the artifact or without.
So I think I'm at like I don't know.
You're 5 below the
You're
cap.
all right.
Yeah.
You're all right.
So
that's fine.
But you know.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to the TWAB and to some raid deets before we get into some spin foil theories.
The TWAB.
The TWAB, very light TWAB this week. Again, kind of shocking. A couple weeks before a major expansion. The TWAB, the raid. I meant to say. The Deep Stone Crypt is going to launch on Saturday, November 21st at 10 a.m. Pacific time, so 12 Central, 1 Eastern. As we were discussing earlier, we are absolutely wanting to attempt this. So here are the world's first raid rules for this year. Contest mode will cap all players at 20 power below each encounter for the first 24 hours. Artifact power will be disabled during contest mode. 1230 power is your team's goal to be at the cap for all the encounters. Being above 1230 will not provide any additional advantage in the final fight. So that's pretty interesting. Like I don't know if we've seen contest mode go that intense for a raid so far. Like they're really trying to limit the amount of people who are going to actually be in competition for that title to be like the absolute best of the best. Mm-hmm. Like your Dados, your Glads, your Gathalions, people like that. The people who have acquired titles before or come excruciatingly, painfully close, like Dado.
170 points. Is that consistent with where we've been before for a new expansion? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's usually 200.
Okay, I could remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, the max your gear can go up to for that season if it's from what's it called? Or excuse me, I guess it'll be a jump of 150 to 200. If it's something you acquired in Season of Dawn, I think it can go up 200 full points. Okay. I think that's what each armor piece and weapon is now capped at.
Gotcha.
So, they said they're going to wait to verify the world's first. They want to spend a little bit of extra time validating it. So keep going hard. If you hear rumors of their team's victory, they'll do an award ceremony and, of course, send the championship belts out. And there is a really cool purple and white data-looking emblem. Kind of reminds me of the Clovis Bray logo in a way. The superimposed part on the purple, at least, for if you complete it in the first 24 hours. If you complete it within the first 10 days, you can get the raid jacket instead of having to complete it before the first reset.
That's where I'm aiming.
Yeah, I also, and I do not say this sarcastically, want to spend $130 on a raid jacket.
I would love to have that opportunity.
I would like. I think extending that out to 10 days makes that a little bit more feasible, especially because it's going to be right around Thanksgiving time. Mm-hmm. Makes that a little bit easier for people. So if you complete it before 9 a.m. Pacific on December 1st, you will get a code, and then you have the rest of the month to order it. And there is a really cool emblem for anybody who finishes. It kind of looks like a little infinity symbol. It's almost it's the symbol from the notebook that comes in the collector's edition, just turned on its side. So kind of reminds me a little bit of a Gambit symbol almost. Go ahead.
This is going to be a Fallen raid? Is that what we've kind of established?
So, okay, yeah, let's get into some theories here. Let's discuss that, because I think contest mode is pretty abundantly clear just by reading it. It makes sense that it would be a Fallen raid. If it's another Taken raid, I'm probably going to scream.
I don't think it'd be Taken, right? Because I feel like they're saving that for the Witch Queen, right? Like I feel like that's where that would.
You would hope, so, man. You would hope so at this point.
Or Hive.
Oh, God, man, another Hive raid too. That's going to be a mixture of Hive and Taken. It's going to be Taken Gang all over again. I think this is actually going to be a combo of Fallen and Vex. We've seen those are the two races that are established on the moon, and there's a Pyramidian on them. There's a Pyramidian there. We're obviously going down into the crypt. We don't know what we're going to fight. I mean, we could fight something completely new. There could be exo defenses down there. I mean, there could be some real wacky stuff. What if we had to fight exos that fight like Guardians? That would be really, really cool to me. They already introduced. They did Gambit mechanics in Garden of Salvation. Introduced some Crucible into this.
That's always been kind of an interesting concept for a raid, and I don't want to branch off from the potential of this new raid, but like fighting something that's not like this giant creature and fighting something that's more akin to like a Guardian, something that's more humanoid in like size and shape, which would be kind of awesome as a boss, I think, if they could figure out how to do it.
So I was thinking about that. So that I think the big problem with that is just like hit markers. Like there's not enough physical space for 6 people to like attack that at one time, which is why
Sure.
I think that they tend to be bigger in size. But yeah, like I know that we haven't addressed this, but like I don't know. I would like to see like Aldrin make an appearance somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I don't know. I don't think we would necessarily fight him to a certain degree, but at the same time, like I don't know, it just feels very unresolved, and I think that that's the climax level of story that you would need with a character like him so far. And I guess he's already had one, but it's majorly unresolved.
I think, yeah. So Uldren, I think, is largely going to be kept out of the raid. I think they're going to restrict him to the Cosmodrome. My personal conspiracy theory is that he is the new light quest giver out there. They've just given him an ambiguous name, and we'll realize that like partway through the campaign, they go, "Oh, hey, that's fucking Uldren." I think this is going to be tied to the Exo Stranger, though, especially because as we covered a few weeks ago in Lore Corner, a lot of signs point to the Exo Stranger being Anna Bray's sister, Elsie, and this could be where we finally find out the truth about that, if we don't already find it out in the campaign. So, a little curious to see what happens here, if we actually kill Aramis in the campaign, or if we have to finish her off Oryx style in the raid. As we all remember, that was a pretty big criticism of Destiny 2 at launch, was that you killed Gaul, and that was it. You didn't fight him in a raid. You just dusted him with unlimited supers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think they're going to try to avoid that. I do think that it's going to be taken, but they're not taken. They're going to be fallen, but with stasis powers. We've already seen that enemy races will gain powers of stasis this year, and if you haven't finished Means to an End all the way, spoiler alert, we kind of get the indication that the darkness is going to reach out to everybody, not just to the Guardian.
You think that this is going to be a new house, like a rejected house of the Fallen, and they're just consumed by the darkness?
They've been consolidated. I believe they're now the House of Dusk, is what the remaining bad Fallen have allied with under Aramis, and then Mithrax has established the House of Light.
Yeah.
And he is its Kel. So Varix will be back to some degree. We don't know if he has a part to play in the role yet.
I need a numbskull statue of Varix, please.
I need Varix and Spider on his throne, just next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We could give so much more money to Bungie. So yeah, what are some of y'all's thoughts though? I don't want to keep ranting on my own.
I've always loved going into a raid for the first time. I feel like it's the one moment where you get so used to your environment and where you are in Destiny, because you keep visiting the same locations over and over and over again, that when you start into a raid for the first time, it's like the one moment that you're like, it feels so foreign and new. And it's so challenging that you have to like really explore it. Mm-hmm. And then there's also like the hidden chests. Like there's going to be hidden chests, which is always like an exciting thing. Like every time you're playing through, it's like, oh, do we know where the hidden chests are? So there's always a reason to explore the nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
So I'm open-minded with the raid.
Also,
don't care what it is. Yeah.
Well, remember the first time you not that Leviathan is like a great raid or anything, but like it was so different than anything else you saw in Destiny 2 up to that point, right? Like it was just so different with all the gold and the purple and everything, and it like I was just like, man, this is like
things weren't falling apart in a raid for once.
Yeah, or like Wrath of the Machine, or there's just so many different also, like, I mean, even if you look at the Prophecy Dungeon, like, look how different that is compared to everything else. These end game kind of bigger events like the raids and the dungeons are like, I feel like it almost allows them to be creative and not pay attention to anything else they've done within the game almost. I mean, that's why I love the raids, because they're just so different. They're so different.
Yeah.
So can I go on a tangent here?
Yes.
There are 3 things that I really want from this new raid, and I first off, I want to commend Bungie for
for Season of Arrivals for really, I think, introducing a lot of people to the raid scene. I think adding the raid ring and adding that like raid challenge brought a lot of people into the raid scene that might not have been there before. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here to really like just kick ass with this raid, because you're going to have a lot more people probably doing it than what you would have had before this season. So number one, the first thing that I want to see from this raid is, I think Colonel hinted on this and Joe hinted on this, is secrets. I want to see like secret chests. I want to see lore tie-ins that might not have been there or that we might not have expected. I really hope that there's a lot of story and a lot of hidden things that factor into this raid. I want to be doing this for weeks and like finding all the little nooks and crannies where all the things are hidden. Number two, I really hope that there are legendary weapons to chase with this raid, because like, don't get me wrong, you know, Last Wish, Garden of Salvation, Scourge of the Past, they all had really great exotics drop at the end, but I want like some legendary weapons to chase. And I don't think we've had a really good legendary to chase since, and correct me if I'm wrong, but since like Leviathan. And like
threat level was the only one with one.
Correct. Okay, so that is also a good point. Threat level and like Midnight Coup were the last really good raid legendaries that we had to chase, and so I really want there to be like a bunch, maybe not a bunch, but a couple good legendary weapons to chase. And I really hope with this next raid that there are some flexibility with how you can approach it. One thing that I really liked about Leviathan, and it's funny you brought it up, Corey, was that you could do the encounters of Leviathan sort of self-contained from the others. You didn't have, it wasn't a linear path. You didn't have to go from one encounter straight to the next. You could, like, each week, like, let's say your raid group knew how to do Gauntlet really well, and you go into Leviathan on a Gauntlet week, you go in there, you do that. You don't want to do dogs. You don't want to do baths. You just, all right, I'm done for the week. Give some flexibility to the...
He muted himself.
He did.
Do we do really bad, like, lip syncing?
You're muted.
Now.
How long was I muted for?
For about 20 seconds.
Okay. I was just saying, those are the things that I'm looking for. I don't know what the last part you guys heard was, but those are the things I'm looking for this raid, and I really just hope that wasn't too long of an explanation.
No, I agree. Like, I really like the flexibility of Leviathan and how... Because, like, I mean, you look at... I mean, I'm going to use the Destiny 1 raids because those are the ones I'm most familiar with at this point, besides Leviathan. But, like, you just look at Taken King or Wrath or, you know, all of them. They're so linear, like you said, Nerd. And it's just, like... I like the flexibility where, like, it's kind of like this open place with, like, secret paths to go to the next thing without having to do the part in the middle and of Leviathan. And, like, I hope that there's some freedom and maybe not necessarily switch them up each week, but, like, maybe you have an encounter that you would like to do first and, like, you just do that encounter first every week just to get it over with. Or, you know, maybe you find these ones easier to do, so you do the hardest one first because, like, this encounter sucks, let's just get it over with so we can go do the easier ones after this, you know. And I really like that idea.
You know what would be kind of neat? Do you, Corey, I think everyone probably would. Do you remember playing the original, like, The Legend of Zelda?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, I would say one of the first open world games.
Mm-hmm.
It would be neat if you could do a raid where you had to collect, like, 3 or 4 bits of a key to get to the last door.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that's how the raid was, is almost like a labyrinth where you could, or a maze where it's like you can go in any order as long as you get complete each little thing. And then, like, the way that you get to the next one. So eventually there would be the efficiency route of, like, oh, if we do this one, then this one, it's the fastest path through to the end.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I want something like that.
And
almost like a mini game within a game.
I think doing something like that also makes it a bit more accessible to those who are really timid about raiding until this season. This season has drawn in so many new people, and I'm not saying that we need to cater to everybody who came in, because obviously with a raid there is still a level of expectation, there is still a level of challenge. Crown of Sorrow is still challenging a year later, because it's so mechanic heavy. Like, we may be 300 light above. That raid is still really, really challenging when you get the Deception and you get the Galran. That's still rough. Last Wish is still rough. Scourge of the Past is a joke. Garden of Salvation has not gotten any easier this year. Like, it's still so much about puzzle work and teamwork. Like, killing the enemies is the easy part in these raids. Mm-hmm. It's the actual puzzles and mechanic building that I think is definitely a challenge, and doing something like that where you could choose your encounter or choose the order you want to do them in, I think would be something so out of left field that no one would expect it. The problem, I think, when we do something like that, as much as I want it, is then you have two emerging factions. You have the ones who expect it to be there every single raid, which I think would be detrimental to what a raid is meant to be, honestly. Agreed. And then you have the other faction who is screaming that the sky is falling and we're catering to casual players. We're not catering to like the 5% of us. This is the main game that we play. We stream it. We build content around it. Like, you already see such a stark contrast in people like that on Twitter and on Reddit regarding this game. And that gap has only grown since New Light came out. I've seen so many threads about people being like, oh, I just got it on Game Pass. Like, I see that Forsaken and Shadowkeep are part of this. How the hell do I even start these campaigns? Like, it doesn't tell me where to start the story or anything. And Corey and I have both said it multiple times. Like, we've told people, like, just wait. Don't play anything until Beyond Light is out. Start it then. There'll be a new Light experience for you to play and for you to do. It'll introduce you to all the mechanics. And with raids, I do think there is an inherent part of this of, okay, cool, we're going to make this a little bit easier for you. We're going to make this successful for everyone. But this is an endgame activity. Put on your big boy pants and come do it.
So,
yeah. I don't know. But let's not make this as linear. I definitely agree.
I think I really want to touch on a point that you said there. I think now is the time to make a raid that is a good entry point for people into the series. I think this is a time where you are going to have an audience that's starting the game and who's going to have access to almost all of the content right out of the gate. And this will probably be the last. I don't want to say the last time they'll have that, but certainly it's the first time that they'll have that. And as somebody who's been a content creator for Destiny, and somebody who would consider myself, a mid-tier kind of sweaty player, I think, I'm willing to concede this raid to something that is more accessible for newer players if it means bolstering the player base. I mean, we're going to have this expansion for a while. We're going to see, dungeons. We're going to see other raid content released. I think this should be a raid that caters to people who are coming to Destiny for the first time. I don't think that necessarily means we have to make it easy, but I think it definitely means that we should make it a good entry point for them in some way, whatever that is.
I at one agree and disagree with you on that. I do agree that we should make this more accessible. This is the perfect time to do it. I disagree that it should be this particular raid, though. Okay. I think the Deep Stone Crypt holds just so much significance for long-time players and people who love reading the lore and reading about this universe. Like, this is a mystery we've literally been waiting for years and years at this point. This is something I did not expect this fall. I was one of those who bought into the theory that what Cade says in the Ace of Spades mission, that it's on Enceladus. I took that and ran with it with the rest of the lore community. We're like, oh my god, it's actually on Europa. This changes everything for this fall.
What if?
I think the raid, once let me get this out and then I'll cede the floor. I think the raid that you do that with to make it accessible for everyone is we go back to the OG. When Vault of Glass is reintroduced, you Destiny 2ify it, but that is still, to this day, I think that is the perfect raid to introduce people to raid style mechanics. And with so many more mechanics that we see in endgame activities being brought into not even just dungeons, into public events and into seasonal events now, I think that is training a new level of Guardians. I think that's why people became so comfortable with doing it this year. And it was the extra loot. It was absolutely the extra loot also. Like, that's the other thing Bungie's got to take away from this. But y'all go.
Do you think they're ever going to introduce something that, Final Fantasy 14 introduced, where like you can kind of jump into like quote unquote easy versions of raids just to experience them and not have the hardcore raid? Not that that's like something that Destiny needs. I was thinking about that the other day because I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about Final Fantasy 14. I'm like, I wonder if they would ever do that for Destiny, especially for raids that are like older, not necessarily the newest raid, but like, maybe one or two raids behind. They just, here's an easy mode so you can experience what a raid is like or whatever.
I think that should be a thing that happens, but it should be a full year later. I think if you want to experience it in year one, you've got to get the light level up, you got to get a team together, you got to have the skills to do it. After that year, if you want to experience it just for the story, just for the lore, maybe get like half the amount of chests or something. Like no chance to get the raid exotic.
Yeah, like there's no like secret chests or exotics or anything, because I think you take away the appealing part of exploring that and like getting the cool stuff. But like if you just want to experience the raid and the story and stuff, because like again, you look at the Taken King, like the Taken King story wraps up in King's Fall, right? Like that's like you don't get the full story unless you complete that raid, and I don't know.
So I think this opens up an interesting question, and I don't want to go too far off topic because I know we're trying to focus on the new raid, but what would make a raid easy in Destiny? So like, I let that be an open question to everybody here. What would make a raid easy in Destiny?
I mean, if you look at something like Vault of Glass, where it's basically a DPS raid, basically like you just make it easier to kill the enemies and take down the bosses, I guess. Maybe you make the timers on the things you just stand on, maybe you make those shorter. Maybe you make less enemies come out at you from those tunnels while you're standing on there, like something like that, almost makes you feel like you're overpowered for the raid almost, I guess.
I'm going to answer that with a breakdown of like Scourge of the Past, for example. I think that's a really good, that for me, that's the perfect intro raid for a new player. For example, when you're trying to when you're reading the map in the first encounter and you're taking your sparrows all over the place, I was taking a group through who pretty clearly, like two or three of us had done it and were really experienced it. The other three said they were, but really had no clue what was going on, even with some of the mechanics or how, to follow directions. Maybe instead of having to dunk those balls like 8 times, you have to do it just 4 times. Or it's designed to where like, you're running them together, so you're all learning the directions in the different spots. Or for example, like you're just dunking at each of the 4 locations. You get a little bit farther into it. Maybe the Sparrow race is less punishing. Like the giant servitor is like 10 more seconds behind you, so you have time to learn where those jumps are. And hey, you can spot things and be like, oh, what are those? Like those buttons, like, oh, what are those? I guess I'll find out in the actual raid. They don't do anything right now. Like you drive by and a message pops up like, I don't know, like you press a button and it does nothing or something in your little like text box over off to the left. You get to where you're running in the Undercroft and you're trying to summon the tanks for the first time. Maybe instead of having to do that 2 or 3 times, you only have to do it once. So you're teaching the people above and below. And then on the last one for Insurrection, I don't know, maybe you just have to dunk them once and it's a longer DPS phase or something. Like there are ways to do it, but with some of these encounters, I definitely agree. Like, I don't know how you possibly make an easy mode out of them. I think the raids as they exist are meant to be normal, like easy to normal, and I would like to see a return of prestige mode for raids personally. Yeah. That was something that was overwhelmingly positively received in Destiny 1, and then they did it for the year 1 raids, and we haven't had prestige since. Also, the rewards sucked in prestige mode for the raids they actually did it for in Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like to see a return of that so that way you're rewarding, you're letting the normal players have the normal raid, you're letting the hardcores have the high mode, you're letting the guardians maybe even like do the guided games for raids. Maybe that's the easy mode, so that your Sherpa is in there deliberately teaching you how to do the encounters, and it's not just, hey, just piggyback with us and 3 of us will carry you through it. Like, not gonna work that way. You're actually gonna be forced to do it. Like, everyone has to try the mechanic to advance or something. I don't know.
I think that when you look at making a raid easier, if that's the goal, I think it's all around tolerance. Meaning, like, I think shortening timers, I think that even, like, there's no 30-second timer before I can be rezzed. So, like, maybe we don't have those darkness zones. I would argue that, again, if you want, like, I would say you have crafted as, like, a story mode. And, like, maybe you eliminate most of the mechanics and just make it like, hey, you have to go through, kill these ads, kill the ads here, kill ads here, DPS the boss, and like that type of thing. Like, and like really eliminate, keep the jumping puzzles are fine. And you eliminate most of the mechanics with it. But I also agree that, you know, like maybe you don't get all the rewards, you can't get the exotics, you can't get like the raid specific loot. It's just a story mode to experience it. I think that would be beneficial, and I don't agree with keeping something exclusive or like it's already hard, right? The people that are the content creators, the people that live, breathe Destiny, try to do the solo flawless. They try to do the flawless mode. They try, like, there's all these other challenges that they try to create for themselves and do that. Having other people being able to experience the raid at a low level and not get any of the rewards is not taking anything away from you. It's not. Like, let these people experiencing it and let them get that bug that's like, I've done this, I want to see what the next level up is. I want to, like, let them get involved. I don't agree with keeping things exclusive or secrets from people. It's not beneficial, and then they're still going to watch the guides that they create on how to beat the things in the modes that they are. I don't know. That's me personally. I just remember the first time I played a raid, which was far too late in my Destiny career, and I was like almost, even now I'm almost embarrassed sometimes that it's like I haven't played this raid, and I love the game because I haven't been able to get a group together. I haven't been able to invest the time into it or anything like that. It stinks. And it's so, every time I play a raid and I finish it, and I'm like, man, I really wish I would have got into this sooner. But it seems intimidating at first. They need to limit that intimidation factor of it.
Absolutely.
I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how they would make it easier though to get people into it. Like it's got to be 6 people, and it's got to be 6 people who know how to communicate, and it's got to be 6 people who know how each other plays, I feel like, at least to an extent, you know?
I think the 6 people is the true barrier.
Yeah.
It really is.
And I think that's why the dungeons have been such a great thing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
You have to have 3 people. I don't want to say they're like baby's first raids, but they are excellent appetizers for raids. Like, I've had friends who have gone in, they've never done a raid, but they did the dungeon because, we only have to have 3 people. Let's go run the dungeon. They're like, oh my god, that was really cool. I want to LFG and get 3 more people in here. I want to go do a raid now.
Well, not just that, but some of the best weapons that have come out in the game have come out from dungeons.
Yeah.
I mean,
Prophecy is the absolute best place for drops right now.
Well,
in the game.
not just Prophecy. Think about Whisper. That was a dungeon.
So great.
Parts for Izanagi's Burden took place in the dungeon. I mean, you could probably subsist. Sorry, I can't speak. Subsist as a Destiny player without having to ever do a raid and just focus on dungeons.
You definitely can, and I think that's one of the good things they did with Forsaken coming in was, we got Whisper right before that as a teaser. You got Outbreak, you got the Bad Juju mission. Wishender is tied to doing Shattered Throne twice. Xenophage, obviously, with Pit of Heresy. I mean, there's so many excellent exotics that have come out of those. And it's not like, oh my god, if you don't have an exotic from the actual raids, like you're completely screwed. Like Legend of Acreus is nothing to write home about. 1,000 Voices is still pretty good. Your drop rate is still abysmal. Anarchy, I'll concede Anarchy is really good. Teraba.
I mean, Whisper was definitely a barrier for a while. If you didn't
Well,
have Whisper.
I guess I'm talking like actual raid exotics.
Oh,
like
okay.
I'm getting around to your point where you're getting better loot out of the 3-man activities than you are out of the raids ultimately in Destiny 2.
Yeah.
The only two that I would be like, yeah, these are like absolute, like you want to have these in your arsenal are Anarchy and Divinity. And Divinity is handled exactly how raid exotics need to be handled going forward. It's a quest that you start before the raid. You have to do some prep work, and then you have to do specific objectives inside. Like we were talking, secrets that are hidden. That's how you do a raid exotic. You reward those players that want to hunt down every little thing, and you give them one of the best weapons in the game.
What was the Outbreak version in the first Destiny? Outbreak what?
Outbreak Prime.
Which had ties into Wrath of the Machine, didn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean that was I never did it, full disclosure, but I watched a guide. That was one of the coolest raid exotic quests. Not raid exotic quests that you could do. There was just so many elements to it, from like mathematics and like working as a team to like going to the raid and doing
that.
Stuff. I think
that and Sleeper Stimulant were just masterclass in how to do exotic quests in Destiny 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It sure beats opening up 1 million nodes on Mars to get it.
Just
Yeah.
I can't. If I have to open up another node, I'm throwing my Series X out the window.
Well, don't do that.
And then I'll go get it.
I'll be out that window and I'll catch it.
He'll catch it like a baby and run away.
Yep, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
Do we have any more thoughts or speculations on what this raid will entail? I know we got away and got into mechanics more. Anything else that we would like to see with this raid, or any of the raids coming up this year? Changes to Vault of Glass, etc. Before we get into our last raid topic tonight, which I'm going to try to make go really fast.
Vault. What I mean, Vault. How would you? Vault's going to be so different because of all the super changes. First of all, like it's just going to be different. I mean, I guess the Titan still has a bubble, but it's not as effective as you would probably like it. There's no self-res with
bubble. Throw a bubble, throw 2 Well of Radiances down, have a hunter shoot it with tether, go up and Dark Drinker that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Boom.
I guess.
Atheon off the cliff.
So here's a question, and this is an interesting group of people here because all of you guys have done Vault, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have not. I actually have never. I've never done Vault. I actually didn't raid in Destiny 1 at all. I came to it very late. But as a Destiny 2 player, primarily going back to Vault, I would want to feel really powerful. So like I think it would be cool to just like bring it back kind of exactly as it was, and let's just annihilate it as a raid. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? Like, let's just go into it with all the power, all the weapons, all the new supers that we have, and let's just destroy it. How do you guys feel about that?
I think they're going to handle that kind of like how we were just talking about. Like, I do think it's going to be a little bit easier to handle than Deep Stone Crypt when it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it'll still be at the appropriate light level, but I think that it is going to largely mechanically be the same. Luke Smith has said, "Hey, we're going to introduce some things like there might be there's going to be some champions in there and whatnot. Champions in the maze just terrifies me thinking about it.
You think about running through that." Like the underpass in the maze, and there's a champion right there, and set it like to avoid the corner.
Terrified. I'm absolutely terrified. I think that is going to be a little bit on the easier side, though. Like, as you get these reprised raids, there's a growing contingent within the community that is spamming Bungie with requests to bring Crota's End back as a 3-man dungeon instead of a raid.
I mean,
because
that'd be
it's so
smart.
pathetically easy. I would love to see that personally. There's almost no reason why that needs to be a 6-man raid, frankly. Looking at that looks like a prototype dungeon in terms of length and encounters.
Yeah, it doesn't take very long either.
No. Like, things like and even like Vault of Glass, like, it's been a couple years since I did Vault, but I think even Vault could almost teeter on that. Last Wish and Wrath, though, are ones that you're like, yeah, these are raids. These suckers are long.
Wrath is rough.
Yeah, that's you have the because I mean you have the opening encounters, you have the Death Zamboni, and then you're running through the Matrix before you get to Axis.
God,
so
the Death Zamboni was the worst. It was the worst. Remember before they patched it where you could kind of just like jump around the wall and just avoid that whole encounter whatsoever?
I do not. I actually did not do my first attempt on Wrath until about a month before Destiny 2 came out.
Oh, really?
I took like 2 full years off of Destiny.
There was like with the Death Zamboni, like you had to sit there and wait until like it got a certain way and like you could like jump over the wall or whatever. There's this little this little invisible platform that instead of fighting all the guys and moving forward, you could just jump around the wall and get to the next encounter without ever doing the Death Zamboni part.
Oh, good old Destiny that's cheeses.
Oh, I know. It was so awesome. And then we tried to do it and we didn't realize they had patched it. This was like 2 months after the raid had come out. And we were we tried to cheese it and we all fell to our deaths because they patched it. So, it was awesome.
That's hilarious.
It was hilariously bad, but it was
I
awesome.
remember in Crota going up and climbing the wall until all the ads disappear. Like you go outside of the map and at the very top, and then they all go away, and then you can just like take your time. You just like snipe.
We stayed up there as stayed up there as sniper support, and we'd send the Warlock over with the sword jump. Mm-hmm.
Man, I like that. Like I think that's fine, and like I don't know. I like everything kind of the way I just say Destiny or Bungie do whatever you think is best, and then let's just consume it. There's no reason to be upset. You don't have to play it. You can always go back and put in D1 and suffer through that game if you want to play the original Vault.
No, I put in Destiny 1 probably like 6 or 8 months ago because I wanted to see what my Xbox character was like, and like
it's bad.
And dude, I went and played some missions. I was like, oh god, you can't even like pull yourself up on these ledges when you miss the jump.
It's hard to go back.
You want to talk about justification for not needing a new engine? That's the same one.
Yeah.
And like it is real bad, real rough.
Yeah. Bring back Hung Jury with Triple Tap and Firefly, please. Thanks.
All right, gentlemen, should we move on to our last raid-related topic for tonight?
Yeah, let's
try
do
to make
it.
this really quick. So we kind of impromptu decided to do this. We were going to hold it until closer to the raid, but I don't think we'll have time to get to it before Deep Stone Crypt. The ranking of the Destiny franchise raids. Of course, we've completed most of them. I think all of us have completed the vast majority of them. Even though Nerd said that he did not raid at all in Destiny 1, you've at least seen the raid videos, correct? Like, you know what happens in them roughly? You've seen some of the design choices?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna do this then. We're gonna rank all the raids real quickly here. If in case anybody needs a refresher, there were 4 raids in Destiny 1. You had Vault of Glass, Crota's End, King's Fall, and the Wrath of the Machine. And then in Destiny 2, I don't even know what number we're up to now, but you have Leviathan, Eater of Worlds, Spire of Stars, Last Wish, Scourge of the Past, Crown of Sorrow, and the Garden of Salvation.
7. I counted 7 there.
Okay, so we have 11 raids total. We're going to start last and work our way up to the top. What is everybody's last place raid?
Eater of Worlds.
I concur.
I'm gonna go with you guys because I haven't done most of these.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go Eater of Worlds. Eater of Worlds feels shorter than a dungeon, frankly, and it's basically one encounter.
That was one of the raid layers, right, from Leviathan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so I mean that makes sense. Like I've said, like I think that missions like Whisper and Outbreak should be considered your dungeons. Your Pit of Heresy and your Prophecy should be raid layers, and then everything else should be a raid.
It also should be noted that that's part of the Curse of Osiris pack.
Yeah, God, dude, it just gets worse. It gets worse and worse. Yeah, big yikes in the chat.
The only good thing about Curse of Osiris was the Vault of Glass cutscene at the beginning. It's the only good thing that came out of that expansion.
That's true.
I think we're all in agreement that is the worst raid in the franchise. I have a feeling I know what number 10 is. Let's all say it together. It's Spire of Stars.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my God! What is lower than Spire of Stars for you?
I gotta think about it, but I like Spire. I thought it was.
That's the thing. I like Spire, but it's the next weakest raid. Without me being biased, because otherwise, Crown of Sorrow
from
would
a
be down.
lore standpoint, yes. From a but from a mechanical standpoint, I feel like it is.
You chuck balls. You chuck balls the whole time. That's what you do.
But okay, all right. I'm gonna go to bat for Spire of Stars here, and I've only done it a couple of times. So maybe for those people who have it on farm status, it's a different story. But Spire of Stars it was intimidating because of all of the mechanics. I think that there's a great flow that raid has that others do not. And it's one of those that, like, if you know how to do it, it's flawless. Like, you can go in there, you've got the people on the plates, and then you got to make the call outs. It's one of those where, like, as long as you know the mechanics, there's very little that could go wrong. I don't know. I like it. I think it was a good raid lair. I don't know if it's a number 10.
I don't know if it is either, but I also don't know what I would put below it other than Eater of Worlds.
Yeah, Crown of Sorrow sucks.
I'm going to be honest. Crown of Sorrow is number 9 for me. I'm going to be completely biased here.
From everything I've heard about Crown of Sorrow, I just feel like everybody just kind of hates it. Like,
fuck Galran, man.
That's all I have to say.
So
I don't like any raid where you're partitioned off, like, and into very small groups for a long period of time. And in that raid, you spend almost the entire raid in groups of 2. And it's not like, oh, I'm just on this side of the room with those people. Like, there's a whole fight in that raid where you are completely walled off from everyone else. I don't know. I think for me, Crown of Sorrow is number 10. Maybe Spire of Stars can be number 9. I mean, you can make an argument for that, but I don't know.
I think you can. I've got Crown of Sorrow at number 9 though, currently. Joe, what about you?
Yeah, I probably would agree. I think I would put Crown of Sorrow next. I feel like it was more visually interesting, which would make it slightly higher than Spire of Stars. But again, like, I will say that ultimately I enjoyed, I guess I just want to prevent the argument, like, that I've enjoyed every raid that I've done.
No, absolutely agree. This is just good-spirited fun here.
Yeah, I would say
Crown of Sorrow.
Yeah, I would say Crown of Sorrow would be next, based on the existing list. But I also would say that I think all of D1 raids are they're like in the top of my raid list. But I can't tell if that's realistic or if that's nostalgia.
No,
that's nostalgia. It's nostalgia.
I've got.
You don't know.
I don't know. I mean, not to get too ahead of ourselves. I still think King's Fall is like one of the best things I've ever played in video games ever.
King's Fall has
I will
the
give you the
best
soapbox
ending.
when we get to King's Fall's placing.
Okay.
I will cede the floor to you, my friend. Number 8. So going on up. I think my next one is probably the original Leviathan.
Yeah, I mean, man, I wish I knew more about the Destiny 2 raids in terms of just like playing them, but it's just like I don't know. When we first played Leviathan, I was like, man, this is worse than anything I've played in Destiny 1. Like,
really?
Yeah, I even almost Crota to an extent. Like, Crota was like fast, but at least it was like.
Crota was fun. Crota's the first thing I ever ran multiple times in a week.
Yeah.
I sat on bated breath waiting for reset to do Crota every week.
I don't know if I would put Leviathan below Crota, but it would be close.
Man, I might be I feel like I'm gonna get flack for this just based on
Do it.
everything
Do it.
that's
This is your personal ranking.
I don't like Scourge of the Past.
That's fair. That's completely fair.
See, when we ran it, I loved it. Like when
I agree. I had fun. I like playing with the group of people. But if I was gonna pick the same group of people to play any other raid, it would not pop into my head. I'd be like, oh, I want to play that again.
I feel like going back to the earlier conversation, I feel like for someone who hasn't raided in a long time, like Scourge of the Past was like the perfect raid to get me back, get my raid feet back under me to go do something harder.
That's why I maintain it's the perfect starter raid, and I really wish they weren't taking it out of the game.
Yeah.
I guess I have Leviathan down there. I really like the raid layout and the design of it, like we've already covered a lot tonight. I just still, like, 3 years in, some of those encounters are still just so tedious to do. I still don't like dogs. Dogs isn't nearly as bad anymore. Nobody likes dogs. If you say you like dogs, you're a dirty liar, and that person is not to be trusted.
I do love Gauntlet, though.
Gauntlet is great. I love being a runner on Gauntlet.
I love putting my Dune Marchers on the Titan and just sprinting through.
I'm gonna say one here that I think it hasn't been said yet, and full disclosure, I haven't done this raid. This is the one raid in Destiny 2 I have not done. I'm gonna put Garden of Salvation down here.
Oof.
And
okay.
here's why.
No, hit me with it.
Here's why. I've watched videos. I've watched people do it. It just seems really boring to me. And the boss fight seems really hard compared to the rest of the raid.
It's hard as shit.
And it recycles a lot of mechanics from Gambit. You're dunking moats. I don't know. I'm sorry. Okay, sure. They brought in a new mechanic with the tethering and stuff, and that's cool. But I don't know.
The tethering is terrible.
Garden of Salvation to me just doesn't sound like a lot of fun, and I think that's why I haven't done it yet.
That's fair. I definitely had the same thoughts as you until I did it for the first time, and I was like, man. Some of the mechanics in this, like how you use the Vex portals in one of the encounters, you literally have to chase a gigantic harpy, like things like that are really fun to me. And I think the nooks and crannies, the secrets you have to find in order to do the divinity puzzles, and especially the divinity puzzles, are just top notch. And that's why this raid ranks really high for me personally. I think once you do it and you start unlocking the secrets of it, you're like, damn, that last boss fight sucks, but it's also really creative. Like, you have to have builders remaking the fighting platform on. You got to have your best collectors and your best reapers getting the modes. I don't know. Like, I really like Gambit though, so it was a fun encounter for me once I did it with the right people.
And it was also like right when Gambit Prime came out, so that it's very topical.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like maybe 3-4 months after, I think.
Side tangent. Can I just say that, like, I appreciate when, like, they introduce minor raid mechanics in the world before you know their raid mechanics.
Yes. That's something they've definitely gotten better about with Destiny 2. Destiny 1. That was one of the big complaints in Destiny. And even, it's funny, some of the mechanics we did in Destiny 1 and raids are now in public events and in seasonal events now. So I really like that. My number 7, though, if we're all ready to move on from number 8. Number 7, I've got Scourge of the Past.
I think it's a good spot for it.
It's not good, it's not bad. And I want to clarify, like, things that I have from, like, 5, 6, 7, and maybe 8, I think are all kind of interchangeable. On any given day, depending on how I feel. Like, we're getting to the point where everything's going to be kind of close for me.
I'm getting to the point where I can start contributing to this conversation in a real way.
Yeah, Scourge of the Past. I love the first encounter. I love the Sparrow race so much, and fighting a giant mech is just a blast. That's a really cool, unique encounter. And again, mini mechs are going to be enemies in Beyond Light. I'm really excited for this.
My one gripe with Scourge of the Past, and unfortunately, my one gripe with it is maybe the best part of it is the Sparrow chase.
like Destiny raids generally follow the same pattern where like your first encounter you get a very basic concept, and then the next encounter you get a little bit or maybe another concept, and it all builds to the final battle, which is like this culmination of all the different concepts you've learned through the raid. The Sparrow Chase just doesn't fit for me. It doesn't match.
I love it though.
It's so stupid. It's funny.
It's a blast. Like, don't get me wrong. Every time I do it, and it's a hilarious like 35 minutes because that's how long it normally takes with like a random group of people. But it just doesn't fit the rest of the raid. I don't know.
You're right.
Or break your raid team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
That is the encounter where friendships are tested.
Yeah.
You're right though. Like it doesn't fit anything in the rest of that raid, but it's still really fucking
It's a
fun.
blast.
Does anybody have a different choice than Scourge for number 7? Joe, I think you put Scourge at number 8. So what do you got at number 7?
I would put Crown there.
Okay.
I was gonna put Crota here just because, like, I mean, this
Shit, I forgot we still had Crota.
We're in the raids that I have done now, so like,
yeah.
I mean, Crota would be like, man, that raid is like, I don't know, it's just dumb. Like it was fine. Like like when you figure it out, that raid can be run in what 20 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, you can run it in.
Yeah.
Real low. Do you remember they were doing that brought back the router lag thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Unplugging the Ethernet cable and plugging it back in. Yeah.
And you freeze, and you could just finish them off.
Yeah.
I definitely think that my next spot, though, number 6, this is probably a little bit too high, and this is where the nostalgia juice is kicking in.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Crota at number 6.
I would concur with that.
I think Crota should definitely be lower, but I can't bring myself to put it lower because that's where I fell in love with raiding in Destiny. Vault of Glass was unlike anything I'd done, but Crota was the first one that I was like, I'm doing this every single week, regardless.
I'll defer to you guys since I've never done it.
At number 6, I'm gonna put probably Leviathan at number 6.
Mm-hmm.
It's real close to that last spot for me though, but it's just like, I don't know, like it was cool to go in there the first time, but it's just like, man, after you run it a couple times and you're like, man, dog sucks. Oh man, somebody didn't with the bath encounter, like somebody didn't hit the thing just at the right time, so we all have to wipe and start over. It's just, and then like the barriers when you're in the other realm in the final battle or whatever, and like
still a pain.
Like you just kind of like glitch through it, whatever. Okay, well that sucks. We have to wipe because your raid is broken. Like this is.
I will forever love Crota for the sword mechanics it introduced.
Yeah.
We used them once in a story mission before that, but that was the first one where it was like, okay, at the bridge, like everyone can get a sword if they want to, and at the end, like, oh, you got to pick a sword bearer, but it can't be your guy with Gallarhorn. And
you guys doing light strikes or heavy strikes? Which one are you doing?
Oh, dude, heavy. Yeah, it's always heavy. It's always heavy on Crota, baby.
I mean,
always.
We would all just stand up there with Gallarhorn and shoot him and have one sword guy when we did it.
So we would have one sword guy, but they were. I remember the group I started raiding with. They were the same ones who did Vault with us, and a couple months later, got a hold of us and like, "Hey, man, we're going to attempt Crota for the first time. You guys want to come?" The only catch is one of you has to have a Gallarhorn because none of us has it. And I was the only one with it. They're like, awesome. They said, we also need somebody to be a hunter because none of us is a hunter, and the hunter needs to be a sword bearer. I was like, I'm a hunter too. They're like, wait, you're a hunter and you have Gallarhorn? You're going to have to drop the sword, shoot him, pick the sword up, go back and sword him. They're like, basically, you're going to have to help basically solo Crota. Have fun.
So the one thing I would say that I love that Crota did is the music change that happened when you got the sword and like he's frozen and it was like triumphant. Like I fucking love that.
Is there anything more terrifying in a Destiny raid than Crota running from side to side at you and you having to hole up in the spawn room?
There was always a moment in that raid specifically, like especially once we started like
it's so
doing like
memeable.
Yeah, you would just always like, I'm hiding somewhere.
Trying to kill the Death Singers when you first get in there. It's running down the Shrieker hallway is so great.
I do want to say that scout rifle that was in there, I used it for a long time. What was it, Fang of Ur or something?
I used Song of Ur, the machine gun, for a lot longer than I care to admit.
Yeah.
But the lamp part at the beginning,
Black Hammer.
The lamp part.
The lamps is awesome.
You could solo that. You could do you could get the first 2 chests real easy if that little light was on.
We used to cheese up the ledge after the first lamp.
Yeah. You could explode it and get shot up top.
It was great. There's so many good things from that raid. So it ranks high because of the nostalgia factor, and I really truly do hope this comes back as a 3-man dungeon.
It will.
I would just love to see the insanity. If we're ready to move on, Nerd, do you have anything else to add for number 6?
Nope.
Okay. Number 5. This is going to be a little controversial, but it's because it's the one raid I've gotten all the way to the end, but I've never actually cleared the boss on. I've got Wrath of the Machine at number 5.
Ooh, that's low.
Yeah, that's real low.
I've never cleared the boss, and so because of that, I'm not going to put something that I haven't cleared up in my top 3, just on personal principle. I really like Wrath of the Machine. I did it real late in Destiny 1's life cycle, so I was already piped up for Destiny 2. The Death Zamboni, as we've covered earlier, is, I think, one of the greatest single encounters in a Destiny experience. It's hilarious to hear all the screaming that is coming from your fire team while you're doing it. My clan name is derived from the Axis fight, from throwing the balls at him and missing them. I think it's a really fun raid, but I think you need the right people to do that raid. Otherwise, it's just an exercise in futility. And it's one of the ones, because obviously the game got cut off a year later, so there was no light level increase. You're screwed. You better be able to do it at the light level it released at, because there was nothing else that came after it. I think it's really cool, though. I like the story that it brings, and with it being the final end of Siva, of course, the Outbreak Prime stuff that we've covered. I think it's a really cool encounter, but it's definitely number 5 for me. It's the lowest, or it's second lowest of the Destiny 1 raids.
I think I'm going to put that. I haven't played this raid. I've only watched it, but it looks super cool. Is Last Wish.
Oh, buddy.
It looks cool.
I respect your opinion as someone who just nuked Wrath of the Machine from orbit. I agree. I can see where you're coming from. Give me your reasonings.
It just looks cool. Visually, it's pleasing to my eyeballs.
We need to do it real soon.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny about Last Wish is that on the last episode of Tower Casuals I was on,
hate you so much.
Josh agreed very, very loosely, but he did agree that he would come on for a Last Wish run. I think we had decided it was before Beyond Light comes out.
Was it some sort of legit run or something?
I think it was a legit Riven run where we actually have to do Riven as intended, as God intended.
Missionary.
I would just.
Oh, there's nothing missionary about that fight, my friend.
Yeah, you're getting it.
Reverse cow guardian.
It is BDSM. It is not good.
Well, I'm just saying.
Riven is the dominant partner in that fight. Let's put it that way.
Let's see. We'd have to stream Josh's BDSM costume to YouTube since there's no nipples on Twitch. Gag ball, leather collar with the one strap that goes down the middle, ties your leather chaps to your legs. Some handcuffs. You got to play with your hands behind your back on your controller.
Guys, I got to go masterwork something real quick.
God, I hate all of you so much.
All right. Let me make all of it go soft for you guys. I'm gonna go with Leviathan at number 5.
Okay.
I think variety in the encounters puts it higher than a lot of other raids. I think it was very diverse. But yeah, it wasn't terribly exciting or heroic or triumphant. Callus is a cool character, but he's not I didn't feel any particular way about killing him. And spoiler alert, you don't actually kill him. But I don't know. It was a good raid. I think it was a good first raid, but it wasn't anything special.
I would like to run that raid before it goes away once again, because I've never ran it on my Xbox characters. So I would really like to run that raid at least once, and then like one other one before they go away, because like I said, there's a few raids I haven't done and I would like to do them. So
Joe, what do you have here at number 5?
I have Garden.
Okay.
I really liked it. I like the art style, but it doesn't have longevity for me.
Yeah.
I feel like after the initial kind of viewing of it or playthrough of it, I didn't feel like it was one of those raids that I wanted to like revisit.
Well, and the underwhelming
But
loot
it is
doesn't help
good.
either.
Yeah. I don't know. I attempted to do this on like a day 1 raid.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being so like excited and everything for it. So like it does have a killer art style. But even now, like when I see the Vex on the moon with like the leaves and the moss on it, I'm like, okay.
It's a little too much.
Well, pull it off. You guys are robots. You guys don't know how to clean yourselves or what?
Get a shave.
Does the moss transport with you? Does that come with you then? Like, I don't know. It just feels like it's so one note after a while.
Yeah, for sure. Let's keep the garden talk going. I've got garden at number 4. I definitely agree with you. It's one of my favorite designed raids. It's in my top 3 raid designs, I think. I really like the layout of it, even though it's linear. There is a lot of jumping puzzles within this.
Yes.
There again, I've already talked about it a couple times now. The divinity puzzles I really, really love. I've said this is how a raid exotic should be handled. I think they did a lot of things in Garden that were really cool, but man, that final boss fight sucks ass. It's terrible. I really, really, really hate fighting the Sanctified Mind. I'm not a fan of it. But I think the story behind us getting divinity is really cool. We literally took a Vex weapon and made it our own, which kind of fit with the theme of some of the legendaries we got, as well as, taking anarchy and things like that. I think that's kind of a cool capstone for that whole saga. But other than that, man, I agree. Like, there's not really a whole lot of reasons to go back and run it. Once you've gotten divinity, there's not, unless you're going for the title that's related to that raid, there's not a lot of reasons to go back and do it.
But it is pretty, especially for a first time.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's absolutely beautiful. I kind of want to go back and do it once the new light cap hits, and we've got it running in 4K at 60 frames. I would like to go back and check it out again just to see how much more gorgeous it looks on a new flat screen. But I don't know if I can suffer through that boss encounter again.
I would be willing to run through it and quit at the boss.
Okay, what is we're starting to run short on time. What has everybody else got at number 4?
Wrath.
Okay.
Ooh.
Leviathan.
Okay.
Leviathan. No.
God, really strong showing for Leviathan.
I think I already used Leviathan, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
I think
did.
you used it for number 5.
Oh, Scourge of the Past. That's what I meant.
Oh.
Okay.
I meant Scourge. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts on those that we have not already covered?
No.
I've got lots of thoughts on those that we haven't covered yet.
Hit me. On the ones that we just listed.
Oh,
for
no.
Okay.
Any thoughts that we haven't covered?
Yeah. Any thoughts we haven't covered on those
The
specific
raids
ones
that
we
we've
just
covered.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the top 3, and I think we've all pretty much got the same top 3 at this point, or close to it. So my number 3 is Vault of Glass.
Hmm.
This is where I had to really resist the nostalgia moments.
Yeah.
So I've got this at number 3. I still think on any given day I could bump it down to number 4.
Having never, I'll quickly go through this because I know the 2 guys who have run it probably really want to talk. Vault of Glass would be number 3 based on what I know, how I probably would feel about it if I had been there at the time. That's where I'll stand.
Yeah, I think in terms of it being the first of its kind in an FPS game, I think that warrants a higher ranking. And the fact that it was pulled off and universally acclaimed as the best thing about Destiny in year 1 was just a crowning achievement. Like the success of that raid is why Luke Smith is in control of the franchise now. Like, he literally said he wanted to take a World of Warcraft raid but make it an FPS, and he did that with Vault. And he wasn't even supposed to be the Vault lead. He got that gig because the previous lead left. So Luke was given the job. Like, we forget that Luke started out in Community, designing emblems and stuff for Halo Reach, and then here he is being the architect of one of, I think, the crowning achievements. That thing ran on Xbox 360. Let that sink in for a moment.
Yeah.
Like,
I still can't believe Destiny at all ran on 360.
the fact that that expansion and King's Fall ran on 360 is a testament to the wizards at Bungie and to the design of those raids.
Yeah, that's probably.
I'm going to cede the floor. What do you guys have at number? Besides Nerd, he agrees with me. What do you guys have with number 3?
Number 3 for me is Vault.
Okay.
I really liked Vault. It was not my first raid, so I don't have that, like, this is my first, oh my gosh, Vault's amazing because it was my first raid type nostalgia. But, like, when we ran it was really cool going down into, like, these Vex monuments and just going down and taking out these giant, and having these enemies that you didn't really see out in the open yet, and it was just, it was cool, man. Like, Vault's just cool. And Atheon, the Atheon room is like still one of the coolest rooms in Destiny.
Yeah.
So,
for my number 3, I have Wrath.
Okay.
We've covered it enough. I really like it. I like how the variety in the mechanics that were there and kind of the puzzles that existed.
Agreed.
And the art style was different at the time, and it definitely seemed like the crowning achievement of, like, D1 escalation.
Agreed.
The Siva stuff too, especially like the final boss encounter, that whole room, and then the Siva stuff and everything in that raid was really awesome.
Really good art style at that time.
Yeah.
Especially the way it reimagined, like, existing space. That was like one of the first evolution of a space thing that happened in Destiny that was cool.
Agreed. So moving on, my number 2 is, and this,
Here we go.
this should not have been as hard as it was for me to decide.
Here we go.
The more I thought about it, the harder it was. I've got Last Wish at number 2.
Ooh.
I have Last Wish at number 2. It was extremely close between that and spoiler alert, my number 1 is King's Fall. It was extremely difficult between these two. I think much in the way that Vault of Glass was such a crowning achievement for what the world of Destiny could do when it was introduced, Last Wish was what reaffirmed me that Forsaken was the right direction to take this franchise. That they had made all the right decisions. This was a gigantic exclamation point on the end of that expansion. It was underlined, it was circled, it was highlighted. It is, simply put, for me, it is the best Destiny 2 raid. It's not even close in that regard. It is, I think it's the second longest raid behind King's Fall. But every single encounter is genuinely a great encounter. Whether you're hiding in rooms from Kali, you're doing the Shiro Chi puzzles, the stupid ogre can piss off. I don't like the ogre. The vault is so interesting the first time you do it, whether you're reading or defending. And of course, Riven, whether you do it legit or not, Riven is a really, really cool fight. The first time you see her, like, you gasp. Chelsea had never seen Riven when we did it. She was like, oh my god, what is that? I was like, that is an Ahamkara. It's incredible what it does for the story of the game, what it does for the lore. I never dreamed we would actually see an Ahamkara in game, and here we are. Bam, we're fighting one, a taken one at that. And then if you think it's all over, and then you have to rip the heart out and do the world's longest Olympic race with it. It is the best ending to a raid. It smiles from ear to ear, even though it took us a couple hours to do it our first time. We had a squeaker teaching us. I had a kid whose balls clearly had not dropped teaching me how to run this raid. And it's one of the best experiences I've ever had in a video game. Last Wish is Destiny 2's crowning achievement. What do you guys got at number 2 now after I just wrote a novel?
Definitely wasn't that rehearsed.
My number 2 is Wrath.
Okay.
I think just I mean, it was a smaller raid, but it was precise. It had great encounters. It was, you could get in, you could get out. The final boss encounter was like really hard in a unique way, I would say. Like, you really had to be on point.
You had to be good.
Yeah, you really did, and like it was. I just like Wrath a lot. So,
okay. Nerd, hit me with your number 2.
He's muted again.
You're muted again.
Oh, okay. I'm here. All right. So I'm not going to talk about number 2. I'm gonna skip straight to my number 1. So King's Fall is my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 for me is going to be Last Wish. So I don't want to completely repeat everything that you just said, and I never did King's Fall.
Mm-hmm.
But I think King's Fall is cool to me just because you get to fight Oryx. And I think it has a really cool exotic quest that goes around it. That's where you got Touch of Malice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a really awesome weapon, interesting concept.
In terms of lore, it's probably still the coolest weapon we've ever got.
I agree. I've watched. I thought about going back. I mean, if I had a raid group that would go back and do all Destiny 1 shit with me, I would go back just to do that quest and like do that raid.
I would do it. I know me and my friend Mitch have been talking about Destiny 1 raids for like a month now, and like, man, I wish we had people to play Destiny 1 raids with us.
For me, I think it's a toss up between Last Wish and King's Fall. I've done Last Wish, and I think I appreciate it more because of that. So King's Fall for me is number 2.
Joe, hit me.
What's titles only, no explanations? Everyone name their favorite Star Wars movie.
Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, agreed.
The Phantom Menace.
Oh
God! All right.
You got kicked off your own
Kicked out of your own
podcast.
podcast.
I'm just kidding. I seriously, just kidding. It's Empire, obviously. I mean, that's the correct choice.
It is. I agree with you. And that's why I'm going to change, I think, historically, what I would answer as my number 2 and number 1, respectively. My number 2 is Vault of Glass. I love the raid. It's the first raid I did. It definitely was the most different thing. Like, it was so different than anything I'd ever done in anything. I never played World of Warcraft or anything like that. It got me hooked into Destiny. It is the reason why I would fight for anyone to like play and like to really reason with them. Like, no, you should play this game. It's excellent. The sound design alone of Vault of Glass is amazing because you're hearing things that you've never heard before. I love this raid, but it is not my Empire Strikes Back.
Ooh,
Interesting.
As somebody who
it.
is almost exclusively played Destiny with Mr. Colonel Panic here, that's very surprising.
It is surprising. And that Vault of Glass is A New Hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so when we talk about that, I like that you make that comparison because that's why my number 1 has to be King's Fall. King's Fall is my Empire Strikes Back.
King's Fall is my Empire Strikes Back.
King's Fall is what built on what was already an incredible experience.
Yes.
Outside of Nerd, we're all in agreement that King's Fall is our number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
I'll fight. I'll fight for this.
Yeah. King's Fall.
This very much goes like my Star Wars rankings, though. I do have A New Hope and Empire, like kind of as a 1A, 1B. On any given day, I could flip-flop them. And it's funny because A New Hope is probably my most rewatched movie of all time, but Empire is my favorite of all time. And man, it's just I think Joe's comparison to Star Wars with Vault of Glass is perfectly applied here. This is a masterclass in game design and in what Bungie can achieve. This is what we were promised with Destiny. Vault of Glass was a taste.
Yes.
The Taken King as a whole was the promise fulfilled, I think. And again, just like Last Wish, this is an underscore, this is an exclamation point on an already great expansion. It takes it from being a really good $40 purchase to, oh my god, what are you doing? You have to buy this. You have to play this for this activity. Do the 100 hours of grinding, whatever you have to do to come do this raid with me. It is the first time that we go to the Ascendant realm if you are the runner in the Oryx fight. It is the first time that we kill somebody in the campaign and then come back and kill them in a raid, not counting Skolas because we don't technically kill him in the campaign. I think the concepts, basic concepts that we do in everything now. Dunking the ball is introduced in this for the first time. Splitting 3 and 3, covering totems, jumping puzzles along the wall of dicks, jumping ships. I remember so many of my friends hating that opening encounter. I got to the point where they would leave the group until we got to the next checkpoint, then they would join us so they didn't have to do it. King's Fall has some of my greatest gaming memories of all time, staying up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning raiding, hunting for those stupid godforsaken calcified fragments to get the Ancient Palace, and then being able to do the exotic sword quest after that. It's incredible. And it's the gold to me still. Again, that and Last Wish are so close for me. They are the gold standard for what every single raid in this game should strive to hit. But you guys go. I know Corey has a lot to say on this one in particular.
King's Fall was because I played Destiny 1 until and I played until The Dark Below came out and played through the story. I didn't really get Destiny at that point, and then my friend sucked me in when House of Wolves came out and said, "Hey, we're trying to build a clan up. I want you to come play with us. I'll teach you how to play Destiny, whatever." And then we went through, and Kingsfall was we tried it the first day. We surprisingly got to the War Priest, and it was just fighting the War Priest and trying to figure it out without looking, because we tried to do it. It took us I think 6 or 7 hours to get to the War Priest and fight the War Priest, because we didn't know what the totems were. We went in completely blind on the on the first day it was available. I took 3 days off of work to get ready for this raid. It was just man, doing this was the highlight of just Destiny 1 for me. It was the first raid where I got Flawless Raider doing King's Fall. It was the first raid we did. I'm glad everybody's seeing your guys' group chat on this on this video. But just seeing, they're doing the raid 3 times a week for the first time, doing the Prestige raid 3 times a week, being able to just play this raid and knowing it in and out. We could get it. We were doing the Prestige raid. We were getting in and out in 40 minutes. That's how.
Was that the first raid where they had a Prestige version, or was
I think
Prestige came out with King's Fall, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I don't think there was one before that. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
My memory may be fuzzy, but I think that's when it came out.
It was it came out 6 weeks later or something. The hard mode.
Something like that. Yeah. There wasn't one for Vault or for Crota before that, to my knowledge.
Yeah. And we had King's Fall so down pat. We were doing it 3 times a week, and we were raiding Prestige raid 3 times a night. We did the Prestige every week 3 times a night. It was amazing. It was awesome. I love King's Fall so much. I hate it's so funny because we would always make fun of our one friend because he couldn't jump, and he was a warlock, and couldn't jump up the spiral place with the rocks where you had to jump on the rocks to get all the way up to the top, right? Before you go into the sisters. And on our old YouTube channel, there's literally a video of him jumping, going up above the platform and falling right back down the other side of the hole, and all of us were just cracking up laughing because he just couldn't jump.
As somebody who's become a career warlock, those warlock jumps are hard, but okay, I'm triggered.
It's a Hunter Master race for jumping.
Look, it's okay to be a hunter, it's okay to be a Titan, but it's not okay to be wrong, nerd. Okay.
Okay. I'll remember that next time you want a nice well underneath you. Okay.
I got a bubble.
I'll come stand in your well.
There we go.
But I really don't have much else to say about King's Fall. It's just it's probably like the highlight of Destiny 1 for me, for sure.
Yeah.
I think King's Fall took so many elements that were pre-existing, meaning like things that were built in the world, things that I had interacted with, and like was, I don't want to say looking for resolution, but I felt like this is a boss that I'm supposed to fight, that felt like a boss that's been around for a long time. And they did something so cool with scale that it felt like this guy lives up to his reputation.
Yeah.
Which made when we finally beat him at the end, and this was like leading into an all-night thing, like had to work the next morning. I'm up, it's like 4 a.m. Like we're like, okay, let's just give it, we're so close, like we can't quit, we have to do it one more time.
It's always the one more. It's always the one more.
Yeah.
I think it did so many things right, and you got a really cool weapon out of it. There's a reason to go back and keep playing around in that world. And like just talking about it now makes, like, I have the lens, and I know I booted up Destiny 1 recently, and I know how muddy everything looks and how bad the interface on everything is and how empty the world feels.
Yeah.
It just, everything feels so vacant that I almost don't want to play it because I feel like rose-colored glasses on it a little bit as far as like how I remember it, and I feel like playing a remastered version of it is going to be the better way to do that.
Yep.
But it tied into the world so well, not like unlike any other raid really has. Every other raid, for the most part, has like this little side story, or oh, by the way, this shit's happening. But like all of this stuff was like the whole time in D1, it felt like it was present. And he definitely feels like the leader of like the Hive, and I don't know, going to the everything you guys have mentioned is great about it.
I mean,
But
even
it
when you
is,
first
like,
even when you first encounter him in that opening mission on Phobos or whatever, he's like intimidating.
It's terrifying.
Yeah,
Yes.
because like it's just like this dark, like it's just like this dark version of Oryx, and then you go through the campaign, and then like he disappears into the Ascendant Realm, and then like you go to the raid to kill him, and it's just like you said, Joe, with the scale of Oryx and just how big he is in that final battle, and
Yes.
like all the mechanics that are going on within this final battle, and just calling out Titan in the middle with Bubble. You know, make sure you got your Touch of Malice on, because you're just going to need to fire everything at him to get him to stagger before you go into that next round.
And like the boss battle combined with the jumping puzzle.
Yeah.
Like each individual are hard on their own in Destiny for the most part. But then being like, okay, you guys have got to, someone's going to go here, someone's going to go here, you got to keep jumping around until you can dunk, and then then you can do boss, like that's crazy. Meanwhile, he's
There's
like
a lot
freaking
of
around.
questions on the jumper.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, now I volunteer to do jumping puzzles like that. Back then I was really timid when that happened. God, 5 years ago? 5 years ago, King's Fall came out. I was just out of college, and I didn't like using LFG or anything like that. And it was a new group I was playing with, and they're like, "Hey man, you're the only hunter. Do you wanna try the jumping puzzle?" And I resisted it for so long, and we just kept failing. And finally, I did it. I was like, "That there's no more rewarding feeling that I've had than being the one who got the dunk, and we killed him on the next round." Seeing his gigantic body floating towards Saturn is just it's. And I think that's why I like this in King's Fall so much, is they're the only raids to me where you really get a sense of scale of what you're up against.
Very true. And you feel like as a Titan, like being human, and then, or like not a Titan, but a Guardian, like they're like big things in the world. And then to realize like how small you are with to describe Riven, and this is just so crazy, and it's all from the first person perspective, so it's, I don't know, it's different. The only other time that I felt that as a game is like, do you remember in the end of, was it Sonic 2, you fight the Dr. Robotnik that takes up the full screen in that walking robot? Or is that Sonic 1? Yes, it doesn't matter.
I think it's no 2 is Metal Sonic in the airplane, so it's got. I think it's Sonic 1.
Sonic 1. I remember playing that as a kid and just being like, oh, what is that, a big screen TV to play this on? Like, for what reason? I have no idea.
Ganon and Ocarina of Time.
Exactly. This is I feel like the first time that this like it felt different. I felt like, because you get so into the moment that it feels intimidating.
Yeah. Nerd, you look like you're really itching to say something.
Look, I don't want to make all your Destiny 1 PPs go small here, okay? But
my Destiny 1 PP is already small. Thank you very much.
Odd thing to admit on camera. I'll admit it.
All right, so I want to defend my number one choice. And no, I don't want to defend it, because honestly, I think King's Fall... No, I don't need to. I think King's Fall is an amazing raid, just in concept. Again, haven't done it. I think it's an amazing raiding concept. But I think that Last Wish brings everything that Destiny raiding should be all together in one place. And I'll try to keep this quick, because I know we've been talking about this for a long time. First point is it completely changed the zone or the area where the raid originates. So defeating Riven kicked off the 4-week cycle for the Dreaming City. So it completely changed the area that it took place in permanently.
That's true. It's still the only raid to really change something.
Correct. It took 18 hours for the first raid group to beat Last Wish, which I believe was the longest.
It took longer than that. It was actually 22 hours for the first group.
Okay, which is a testament to the difficulty and the diversity of the encounters. Which, is somebody who's gone through them all, I mean, it is the most technically challenging raid that exists. All of the encounters are different. Now, I know that differs from what I said, earlier in the podcast, which was like all the Destiny raids build up on each other. I feel like Last Wish breaks from that to an extent, in that all the encounters are different. But I think for this particular raid, that's okay, because this is supposed to be the culmination of a lot of different things. It has a final encounter, and don't get me wrong, Oryx is worthy of a final boss at a raid like nobody else. I mean, he was a final boss to really beat all final bosses in Destiny, really. But we have a final boss in Last Wish that people are terrified to do the legit way. We had to literally go and find a way to cheat it, because the encounter is now okay. There's pros and cons to this. You could say, oh well, that's just bad game design because nobody wants to do it the real way. But like, the final encounter is so difficult that people are literally like, I've never done it legit. Josh has never done it legit. Nobody that I know.
I do not know a single person who's even attempted.
I don't know anybody who's ever done it legit. So that speaks to, I think, on whatever level you want to take it at, that boss fight is just crazy. I think the design of the raid in general is amazing. I love everything that's Taken, but it blends Taken and sort of this like fantasy feel really nicely. For me, it brings everything that a Destiny raid should be together in one place. It has a lot of lore behind it. Design is amazing. You get great weapons. You get, I think, some of the best looking gear in Destiny 2. Don't get me wrong. There's better gear in I think a lot of other raids, Destiny 1 specifically. But I think the best gear in Destiny 2 that you can get, for me, Last Wish is number one.
Yeah. Like I said, for me, it's extremely close.
It sounds
I feel like I wake up tomorrow and go a different way.
It almost sounds like Last Wish is almost like Destiny 2's King's Fall in a way.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, the parallels are so striking there, right?
Man, this makes me want to run it.
Not just in terms of like the raid layout, but I mean, like, what the expansion did for Destiny. Like, Taken King is when Destiny 1 really became Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, House of Wolves was okay, Dark Below was okay, but this is when you were like, okay, this is what I was promised at launch. Forsaken was kind of the saving grace of Destiny 2. Had Forsaken not stuck the landing, and especially had Last Wish not done it, I don't know if we'd still be playing Destiny.
I agree.
I wouldn't be.
I mean, and Activision still chalked it up as a failure, and after that happened, that's when Bungie was like, nope, forget it. We're getting out of this. We're getting out of this deal right now. We know what we've got here. We are finally where we want to be in terms of design and narrative and things like that. And
I would love to have the Rick and Morty portal gun and visit the alternate universe where Activision got the game that they wanted out of Destiny. Because, like, I'm sure it's not good.
I
made a lot of money.
I'd love to see that, and I'd love to see the original version of the game before they fired Joseph Staten 10 months before launch.
I want to see that too.
Which I think, unironically, I think we're getting parts of that this year.
Well, it's the thing. Like, I do feel like that
too.
set the game back a really long time. Like, them having to kind of make up a lot of the story really set the game back a really long time.
Yeah. So, I think the fact that you still got King's Fall out of all that, and that you got Last Wish out of the disaster that was Curse of Osiris, is just that's a testament to the designers and the programmers.
We did have the Whisper mission after Curse of Osiris.
That was an apology.
You had it about 6 weeks before Last Wish. Yeah.
Which I think that was some of the best content we had gotten.
It was, but I think that was a bright spot in an otherwise like kind of dismal time.
Yeah, agree.
And
I think Whisper was absolutely like
that was
someone's little art project that they were working on. They're like, okay, how can we sneak this in?
Mm-hmm.
And the best part is, it's literally the third time that gun's been reskinned, because the story is it starts out as Black Hammer, it becomes Black Spindle, and now it's Whisper of the Worm. Like, that's hilarious to me, is that they keep making it more and more elaborate. Like, is Savathun gonna be in my gun next?
I mean, does that gun become more like, I don't know, more well-known than Gallarhorn at some point? I mean, if we get another iteration of it, I don't know.
If you get another iteration, I would say yes. I think Gallarhorn is still iconic because we've all heard, even people who have never played Destiny have heard the LFG horror stories of Destiny 1 of you cannot do Crota unless you have Gallarhorn.
Mm-hmm.
It did break the internet for like a day.
Mm-hmm.
It did.
Remember when the Vikings retweeted because Gallarhorn was trending when Zur was selling it the last time? They're like, oh, it's good to see the Vikings fans are on point today or something, and people were like, that's not what we're talking about, buddy.
You.
I remember I had to log into somebody's Xbox for them. I had to log into their profile for them. They had to give me their information, and then as soon as I bought Gallarhorn, I signed out. They changed all their passwords and everything. There were so many people doing. There were literally Reddit threads upon threads of people doing that. It's become such a gigantic meme in the community that we just, every day that rolls around, the Gallarhorn Day comes around, it's spammed all over Twitter, all over Bungie.net, the forums, everything. It's so great. I don't know if you ever passed that, but with that, our raid rankings have come to a close. Thank you guys. I've been wanting to do this for quite a while. And
I feel like it was good. I respect everyone's decisions.
Yeah. I feel like we need I guess any scoreboard. I always think of like Happy Gilmore, so I think of golf. But like, you remember when like they have like one of those boards with the little placards that they can slide in and move things around? Like, we need that for every raid, and they'll be like, when a new raid comes out, be like, do we want to make a change to the board? Then we can slide.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where Deep Stone Crypt ranks for me personally. I like I said, I've been looking forward to going to the crypt as a location for a long time now, and I'm trying so hard not to have any sort of expectations for what I'm going to find there. I want to be as pleasantly surprised as I was with Last Wish the first time I did it.
Yeah,
so, I can't wait to do it.
I'm excited.
Well, kids, should we did anybody else have anything to say before we wrap this up? Because before we started recording, Nerd Journalist said this was going to be the longest episode we've ever recorded. And we were like,
absolutely.
We hope not. And guess what? We've beaten it by 28 minutes so far.
Called it. I called it.
Good job.
Every time
everybody.
I'm on, we set a record.
So, I want to thank everybody so much for watching and or listening to this episode, this long episode. No lore corner this week. We're gonna move that to next week just because raid rankings more important.
We did have an open spot in the in Lore Corner's schedule. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do for the last week leading into it. So we'll do our deep dive on the Drifter next week.
Yeah. So this is Tower Casuals. You can find it on podcast services every Friday or on YouTube. You can also check us out live on twitch.tv/BossRushGames Live and on our website at bossrushgames.com. Remember to like, subscribe, share, rate, and review wherever you listen to this show. Nerd Generalist, Colonel Panic, thank you for joining me and Josh tonight. Where can we find you, Nerd Generalist? Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at ngeneralist.
Yes. Joe, where can we find you?
So I'm Colonel Panic. That's K3RNL_Panic. Always so pleasant to say my name.
Check the show notes.
Yeah.
The show notes.
Josh.
As always, at Josh_Finn on Twitter. That's Finn with 2 N's on the end. And follow me for my nonsensical takes on Next Gen, my constant paranoia over my Xbox orders, which I'm still scared about, and the ensuing fallout from the Buffalo Wing beer.
Oh, God. You can find me at IamCoreyNHC on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on a plethora of content here on Boss Rush Games. Check out Arsenal X, our Xbox podcast, or Crossroads, our PlayStation podcast. You can check those out on your podcast service of choice as well. If you're into Nintendo Power Block, and of course, the Boss Rush podcast. I want to thank everybody so much for watching and or listening. Also remember, Earl of Sandwich is the greatest sandwich of all time.
He couldn't go a whole episode without doing it.
We will see you next time on Tower Casuals. Goodbye, everybody.